Are we good? Great. Thank you, Ryan. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. We love coming to the schools. It's so great. So thank you for hosting us. I call the meeting of the Falmouth Public Schools to order for March 25th. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I know. We're not looking very graceful with our chairs.
The wheels are stuck. It's like a shopping cart.
Figure it out. I'll figure it out tomorrow.
Melissa, will you start us off with the mission and vision, please?
I shall. Falmouth Public Schools mission. The Falmouth Public Schools creates world-class student learning experiences. Our Clippers are empowered to pursue their goals with curiosity, integrity, and resiliency. Falmouth Public Schools vision. Clippers are creative, inquisitive, and engaged learners who participate in their community as socially responsible citizens. Clippers effectively communicate and solve problems that impact the world around them.
Thank you so much. In accordance with Massachusetts Open Meeting Law, I remind everyone that the meeting's being recorded. Any member of the public who would like to make an audio or video recording of the meeting, please notify me by raising your hand either in person or remote and tell us that you're recording and what the purpose is. Anyone recording today? It's okay if you are for your kids. We totally get it. Anyone online? No. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. If there's no objection, we're going to take our presentation of school highlights first so we can start off with our kiddos.
So as part of our series to demonstrate excellence, opportunity, student engagement, and supportive learning environments, tonight North Falmouth elementary students will share how their school cares about every student. Can I introduce Principal Vieira?
Come on up. Oh my gosh, there's so many of you. Yay.
Excellent. Good evening, Rebecca Vieira, principal of North Falmouth. Tonight, I have a whole crew with me, and this is the Kindness Crew. And this is a group that we started 2 years ago. Our school motto here at North Falmouth, work hard, be kind, and have fun. So it was a way to bring kindness into the school. And also, I think it's really important to start to give leadership to students at young ages. So our 3rd and 4th graders are here. They are representatives from each of our 3rd and 4th grade classrooms. We do have some 4th graders that were part of the original crew last year, and then some new members that joined this year. So the Kindness Crew keeps growing, and we're really excited to share some information with you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Parker in 4th grade. The Kindness Crew was created last year with the mission to spread kindness wherever we can, both at school and in our community.
Hi, I'm Lily, and I'm in 4th grade. We'd like to share some of our activities that our team organized for NOGA. Hi, I'm Katie, and I'm in 4th grade. Our team got together and we brainstormed ideas for NOGA Week and the theme of Be Kind, and came up with the idea of creating a blizzard of kindness.
Hi, I'm Ruby, and we are both in 4th grade. We kicked off our community meeting to share our theme of the Blizzard of Kindness with this announcement. The National Kindness Service has issued a blizzard of kindness warning as the powerful storm of kindness is sweeping through North Falmouth Elementary School this week. Expect heavy snow showers of compliments, overwhelming acts of goodwill, and spontaneous outbursts of "You're amazing" moving through our area.
Hello, I'm Gus.
And I'm Jane.
We are both in 3rd grade. After we announced the kindness blizzard was coming to NFE, we sent a snowflake challenge to the whole school. Classrooms an act of kindness to complete over NOGA Week. And when the students completed an act of kindness, they added a snowflake to our blizzard of kindness wall.
Hi, I'm Morgan.
We are all
to see if we first day of yoga happened to be the 100th day of school.
Mm.
Active challenges that were completed were writing down to our bus drivers, cafeteria staff, and custodians, or inviting someone new to sit with you at lunch. We are excited to report that we have 162 as you have heard, we had fun planning our list from now we'd like to show you a short video so you can see how we celebrated.
All right, so as they explained, we took on that No Guff Week theme of be kind and created our kindness blizzard. And I have just a very short video for you of some of the slides to show what we did over the week. You can see our kindness crew has done a lot of work in our school community here, taking on some of those themes. How No Guff comes alive in school is really what we wanted to show you tonight. And you know, they are an awesome group, and I'm really proud that they came tonight and did such an amazing job. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you for doing that. Little treat out in the hallway, if you haven't already, or another one. Some of you know this out there, so anyway. So please enjoy. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for sharing your kindness with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sarah, we're good.
That was easy,
That
right?
Oh,
Thank you, Mrs. Vera.
that was awesome.
Oh my gosh, adorable. Okay. All right, we'll move on. We don't have a student advisory today because it's sports season. So she's super busy, but we'll move on to public comment. Members of the public are welcome to speak about items that are not on the agenda. Comments should be limited to 2 minutes in length. And due to open meeting law, the committee cannot act on public comment. For items on the agenda, the chair may accept comments from the public following the committee's discussion, and you can always send your comments and feedback to schoolcommittee@falmouth.k12.ma.us. Anyone for public comment? Come on up.
Before you start, I just want to let you know I'm the timekeeper, and it's a 2-minute timer, and so that everyone has enough time, and then you have enough warning. There'll be 2 timers, so one at 1 minute 45 seconds, and then one at the end of the 15 seconds. So
Thank
you have a little warning.
I appreciate it. Yes. thank
Sure.
you.
That's my drink.
Oh, where's
Yours is
mine?
behind your computer.
Behind your.
You may not have my drink.
Well, I liked your flavor, I guess. Sorry.
My name is Megan Zottely, and I'm here on behalf of students to draw attention to the Dress for Success initiative at Lawrence School. The school was approved as an innovation school in 2011, and the dress code was part of this proposal, but it was not, however, a requirement for funding. The place to begin that is the easiest and the clearest is with the law. MGL Chapter 71, Section 82. The statute ensures that students' rights to freedom of expression in public schools are protected, provided such expression does not cause disruption or disorder within the school. MGL Chapter 71, Section 83. School officials shall not abridge the rights of students as to personal dress and appearance, except if such officials determine that such personal dress and appearance violate reasonable standards of health, safety, and cleanliness. Falmouth Public School handbooks currently state that students in Falmouth have the right to determine how they dress for grades K through 6, 9 through 12. How is it that they lose this right for 2 years? What I witnessed while visiting Lawrence School: 1, there's inconsistent enforcement, which can and will clearly lead to bias and, as a result, discrimination, which I saw firsthand. 2, students are uncomfortable. My question is this conducive to learning? 3, there are no efforts to gather feedback on the dress code, leaving this committee unaware of the student warrant committee at Lawrence, challenging this in opposition. 4, Lawrence School Handbook dress code currently reads that it is a recommendation and not a requirement. So when the school forces children to change, it is in violation and contradicts the very handbook for the school. My proposal is to implement the Falmouth High School dress code, which can be found on page 119 to 120 of the FHS handbook, which acknowledges both the First and 14th Amendments, as well as the state laws referenced previously. Please know that the same rules and laws apply to both middle schoolers that apply to high schoolers. I'm requesting that you bring this to school committee vote as an urgent matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment tonight? No.
I'm Sarah, I'm a parent and community member and volunteer. Good evening, members of the school committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. As we consider the financial future of our district, I urge the committee to take a thoughtful and strategic approach. Given the uncertainties in the political climate and future funding, it may be prudent to pause major plans until we have a clear understanding of available resources, which one committee member suggested last week. Additionally, another community member, or 2 weeks ago, another committee member raised the importance of a proactive financial plan, one that would help ensure long-term stability while allowing us to continue delivering high-quality education without the risk of unexpected cuts. It is essential that our district remains fiscally responsible while also planning ahead to meet the needs of our students and staff. On a personal note, I want to express my deepest gratitude for the incredible work being done in our special education programs. My children have attended T-Ticket, Mullen, Hall, and Lawrence schools, and while navigating the system as a parent can be challenging, our experience has been overwhelmingly positive. The teachers, therapists, and staff have gone above and beyond to support my children, not only academically, but emotionally as well. Their dedication and compassion, both in the classroom and in IEP meetings, demonstrate their unwavering commitment to our children. I have sat in meetings where these educators not only advocated for my daughters and son, but also shed tears alongside me, showing just how how much they truly care. Real tears, like they really care, and they do such a great job. Their work transforms lives, and I cannot speak more highly of the incredible professionals who make such a difference for families like mine. And one last minute ad, the high turnover rate in administrative positions, the finance director, which we heard about last week, and then the most recent HR, not to mention the 2 principal positions that are open, is a growing concern that warrants the school committee's immediate attention. Consistent staffing changes disrupt efficiency and stability, impacting both educators and students. Please investigate the causes and potential solutions.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Can I make a motion to add an agenda item after the 8:10 update by superintendent, striking 1 and 2 from Navigate the Future?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally within your right to change the agenda. You just have to get somebody to second. Anything else you want to say about it?
That's it for now.
Can you tell me again where it went?
After the 8:10 superintendent update, I would like, after that, before routine business, just a discussion of deletion of
Yeah.
1 and 2 from Navigate the Future.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I'm opposed. Danielle? And then- I'm sorry, to add it to the agenda for tonight. Okay, any abstentions? Okay, so the motion carries.
Can I ask real quick, what is that sound? It's very hard
I know
to
it is hard to
hear.
hear. I don't know. Sounds like the heat probably.
Not something that can be turned off. Oh, okay.
Everybody try to speak up. I have really blocked up ears.
No, me
So I'm just
too.
gonna go
It's
like
real-
this the whole night.
It's really hard to hear.
Okay. It's probably better for people who are zooming in. Okay, the first item is acting on the Cape Cod Collaborative Amended Agreement.
Kelly, I'm sorry, can we go back to what
Sure.
we're amending?
So-
Because I wrote down delete 1 and 2 after the superintendent update.
Right, so Mike, do you want to explain your
Yeah,
motion?
it's adding an agenda item, and the purpose is to delete 1 and 2 from Navigate the Future.
Oh, I missed the navigating the future part.
Yeah, so it's a whole new agenda item under the 8:10 superintendent update, but before routine business.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
All right, so I'd like to introduce Hope Hanson. Can you want to come up? You don't have to talk if you don't want to, but she's the director of the Cape Cod Collaborative. She began in January as the new director.
Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations.
Prior to her appointment, she served as the assistant superintendent for Mashpee School District. One of Hope's first acts was to open a discussion to invite Plymouth Public Schools into the Cape Cod Collaborative. School Committee Vice Chair Terry Medeiros discussed this matter at our last meeting and then shared the Cape Cod Collaborative Articles of Agreement. In order to include Plymouth into the Cape Cod Collaborative, each member district, including us, must vote to do so. Tonight, the school committee will vote on accepting Plymouth into our collaborative. Hope or Terry, would either one of you like to add anything?
I already said my point, and I gave a couple of bullets from the agreement, is that you can do more in a group, spread out services, and I'm sure you'll go on from there, Hope.
Sure.
It's
Hi,
been a-
everyone.
It's been a real dream to work with Hope as our new director.
Oh, Terry, what kind of dream though? Let's say. No, thanks for letting me come tonight and for that lovely introduction. I have to amend some of what you said. I did not open the discussion for Plymouth to join the collaborative. That discussion's been going on for about 1.5 years, I believe. And what
The first I heard was when you shared. So thank
what
you.
I walked in, it was, this is happening. You need to open the articles of agreement, get them fixed, sent to DESI, approved, and all the districts have to vote
so we can get the signatures to Desi by April 1st. So this is my 17th school committee meeting this month.
Oh, my goodness.
Not an exaggeration, not a drama thing either, just, it's actually been a great opportunity because I've been in person for most of them. Some are happening simultaneously, so I've had to be on the phone or whatever, but I've gotten to actually say hi to people and meet you. And so that is phenomenal. And I'm really grateful for that. The vote tonight will be to amend the articles, to accept the amended articles of agreement as presented. In order for Plymouth to join, 10 of the current 19 districts need to vote to approve the amended articles. So far, all but one have voted to approve, and Plymouth has also voted to join. The Cape Cod Collaborative Board of Directors voted unanimously to accept the amended articles of agreement to include Plymouth on February 26th. And as I said, this is the 17th. So tomorrow night is Sandwich, and then Cape Tech and Monomoy on Thursday. And then we'll have had all the meetings and all the votes. I also just will add real quickly that I'm really, really, really excited for the opportunity to work at the collaborative because I've been a special educator all my career, except the times that 8 years I was in Mashpee. But I think that we have the potential to serve Falmouth in a way that can really change outcomes for kids. And so I'm really looking forward to working in that direction. And I say that because in a year from now, or maybe a little longer, I'll probably be back looking for some additional amendments to the Articles of Agreement based on the strategic planning we're going to do. So I don't want you to think that I came once and that's it. I also can always come. I live in like right up the street, but I can also always come, even if I didn't, and answer any questions. So I'll leave it there and say thanks.
Any questions?
I have just, if I could, through you, Chair. This says on, I'm gonna look here at 3.2F, which is on page 10. It has some dates here about April of the previous fiscal year. So my only question is, would Plymouth join the collaborative as of July 1st or the following year?
It is, if the towns or the school committees all vote to approve the amended articles of agreement and we get it with live signatures, so I'm going to grab you, by April 1st, July 1, 2025 is when Plymouth will join. No, thanks for the question.
Any other questions?
I was wondering if you wanted to share anything about your thoughts on the strategic plan.
The Falmouth strategic plan or the collaborative? So I, like Dr. Dorr said, I've worked in Mashpee as assistant superintendent for 8 years. So we've been members of Cape Cod Collaborative. Prior to that, I worked over the bridge and I worked at North River Collaborative and then in West Bridgewater Public Schools where I was a member of Reeds and North River. So when I interviewed for the Cape Cod Collaborative, I went looking obviously online for their strategic plan, and there hasn't been one since 2010. So what I'm excited about is the opportunity to come in and really listen to the 19, almost 20 member districts, all of the sort of collaterals within those communities to find out what are we doing well, what are needs that are not being met, and then how can we meet those needs? So I'm really excited about it. I get super dorky about strategic planning in a way that's probably why I don't have a lot of friends. No, I'm kidding. But it's something I truly enjoy doing. I think we have a lot of work ahead of us. And for me, that's why I show up every day. So
thank you.
Sure. Glenda.
I just would like to know if our legal counsel has had the opportunity to go through the articles of agreement. I would think that we would want to.
Well, nothing has changed, correct?
So
The only addition is.
Thank you for asking that question because I have gone to a lot of meetings and have said the same thing and I didn't say it here. So the only substantive change is Plymouth being added as a member. The other changes, the last time these articles were opened was 2015. DESE requires that in addition to whatever the reason is you're opening the articles, any regulatory changes that have happened since the last opening need to get corrected or updated. And so there's one other addition, there were some typos, but also an addition where we had an adjunct membership that was in our articles of agreement, that's not allowed. So that's been removed. So those are the only two pieces. So we have Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lahane are the collaboratives attorneys. They've reviewed it, and then Desi gave us their updates. And, but I also understand, like, if,
Well,
I tend to always want our attorneys to look at things too, so.
And they're also our attorney.
Oh, are
So
they?
technically, our attorney did review it because
Okay.
that's the same lawyer.
But not with the understanding, not with the lens of
Yeah.
Falmouth, which I can appreciate.
Any other questions? Mike,
So moved. Or
any last questions? Mike, you want a motion?
motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's unanimous. You have my paper. I'll sign it right now.
Oh, I do.
I know.
Saying, like, am I allowed to like approach the bench?
Oh
And I
my
know we're
gosh,
not
we are not that
judged or
formal.
whatever.
But with 17 meetings,
You have,
where
and I
may
actually
not
have to
mess it
cut
up.
them
Is it
out with
above or
scissors.
below? It's above.
Below, yeah, above, and you don't have to print it, I'll type
You
it.
don't have to
Just,
print
just copy it. But I have to literally physically cut out all the signatures and glue them onto one piece
Oh
of
my
paper,
gosh.
which seems really silly in 2025. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not.
send it by owl?
I was going to, but Hedwig is tired.
Ah, yeah.
so. Thanks.
Well,
No,
thank
nice
you
to
for
meet
coming.
all.
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Okay, next up is acting on the transportation vendor selection.
All right, thank you. At our last meeting, you received a letter and recommendation from Alliance Education Associates, consultant in the transportation bid and selection process. Senior Associate, Richard Labrie, conducted a thorough analysis of bids and recommends approving Lucini Bus Company to serve as the Falmouth Public Schools bus vendor. As you consider your vote, you have two options: a full 5-year contract or a 3-year contract plus a 2-year individual option years at the end. The total cost of the 5-year contract is $12,912,650. As you consider the 5 years or the 3+2 year, we should consider the service we've received in the previous 5 years. As you know, Lucini has been our bus company for 5 years. They have been providing reliable and safe transportation for our students. They have been very collaborative and responsive to the administration. When we hired Lucini 5 years ago, it made sense to do a 3-year contract. They were a new company for us. So a 3+2 made sense. They've been with us now for 5 years. So I'm going to say that it's your option that you could make a motion to vote for a 5-year or make a motion for a 3+2.
Do you have a recommendation?
I do have a recommendation that we have had great service. They've been reliable and safe transportation for our students. And I think a 5-year contract is appropriate.
Can I ask a question? So is there any difference in if we do 3 and then 2 at the 3-year mark? Is there adjustments to the yearly rate or the fuel rate costs or anything like that?
That's why I gave you the total overall. So like,
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay. Mike.
That was a good question. That was my question. My
Oh,
other one
sorry.
was the options. Individual options for them or for us?
It's
Those last two.
It's just in favor of.
The school committee would have to vote.
It's a 3 and a 2, not a 3-1-1.
It is a 3-1-1.
It is a 3-1-1.
Yeah.
And there's no cost differential at all, 5 versus.
No.
Margaret.
What would be the advantage of doing the 3-1-1? What would that be? Or would there be an advantage? So maybe that's a better question.
Well, in the first round, I think the advantage was it gave us 3 years to see what type of service we have, right? And but after having 5 years of good service, I don't know that there's an advantage at this point. We can lock. Yeah, I don't know that there's one now. We know the service that they provide.
Okay,
And we've worked well with them, so.
All right. Is there a motion for one of the options?
I'll make a motion for the 5-year option, the option number 1, the 5-year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this one? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'd like to abstain on that if I could.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I should have voted aye. I didn't say aye, but I wanted to vote for it.
You did, okay. I was guessing from the.
Move
the-
quickly.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Great. Oh,
Right,
that's,
and we're all set for next year's
I know.
transportation.
well,
That's
and we also
quite a
don't
bit.
have to take a vote in 3 years on it,
Yeah,
to just
that's
do the same thing
exactly.
over again, which is always nice. School choice.
Yeah, so my recommendation is to accept 4 seats per grade for grades 1 through 11. Kindergarten will be accepted to the degree we have seats, and we do not accept school choice for grade 12. So I ask for a vote on school choice.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I feel like we've kicked this around for a number of meetings.
Tried
Any
last time.
last discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Now some money. Let's accept some money.
All right, let's do it. So 4,000 mini grant from Salt Pond Sanctuaries for our science department. The mini grant from Hollis and Lovell Future Fund of Salt Pond Bird Sanctuaries supports a number of activities for our science department, and they have done so for many years. Today's grant, 2,000, will support needed supplies so students can continue with the Drifter project in our marine engineering and technology course. We've heard lots about our drifters over the time, and it's a great activity for our students. 1,000 for a telescope, camera, and other supplies that will allow students to understand data at a more sophisticated level in our astronomy course. 700 for a new 8th grade meteorology unit to study the weather, and 300 for gardening supplies for hands-on learning of soils, agriculture, photosynthesis, and plant life cycles, part of the 7th grade standards, and learn regenerative agriculture and food justice in the 7th grade. Much of the student learning will be outside in the Lawrence greenhouse that we just was able to put up last summer. And again, another shout out and thank you to FEF for providing that grant funding for the greenhouse.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
I just was going to ask Sonia and Henry, were the drifters that from Cape Verde part of this too, or?
Those were additional drifters. The drifters that this funds are in largely in Cape Cod Bay.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I just noticed that the grant period is from January to December. That's not the academic year. I was just wondering about the dates.
It's probably the fiscal year for Salt Pond.
Yeah.
I would guess it's the fiscal year for Salt Pond.
Okay.
Who gave the money? I'm sure, I don't think I have any trouble spending it since they already said that they
No,
can
I
spend it
no,
on
I
it.
just didn't understand.
And because it's all supplies.
Yeah. Well, I
That makes
think
sense.
of that, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
School year.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Any last comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's unanimous. Next is the mini grant.
So $600 from Cape Cod 5 mini grant for the literary food truck project. Lawrence presented last school year at Lawrence. So some of you that were here may remember the students shared their projects and with us. But the students pick a companion text in addition to the grade level assigned reading. When they have completed the reading, the companion text, their report is creating a food truck that summarizes what their reading is. So it takes their creativity and they are able to share what they've read in their own design features of what they pull from the story. So this is all 7th grade students participate. So the funds help purchase the items for the students' food trucks.
Can you just give me a visual of what that means?
Matter of fact, I have some pictures. So since you were, I was wondering if someone would ask.
Well, we had them. We got to see them once at
I know. Is there? Can I connect with Brian? Did Brian hate me? What happened to Brian?
you can just share screen.
I can. Yes. So so here's a couple pictures.
Oh, and
There we go.
Oh no, here's share. I can't. There you go. That's what I'm saying. Brian. Well, it let me.
You're the super.
No. Oh, that's right. Okay. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Here we go. This is the way. Thank you.
There it
All right.
is.
Yeah. So you can see it. Okay. So there is one picture. This was last year at Lawrence when we were in the school. The students were sharing. you can see, you know, they do the trifolds and they do the work and they present. It may be hard to see right there, but each student has a food truck and then they,
Is it like a picture of a truck?
yeah, so
Oh,
right
okay.
here's one, I think you can see a little bit better, and it's, if I zoom on this, my guess is, it's an Italian,
I think it
it's Italian theme. Okay. Yeah, Tuscany, okay. And got a couple more here, here's one.
Was this the one from the Lawrence School?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
these
saw
are-
those, we saw those at the Lawrence School.
Yeah, so this is some, the information on there is about a book they read.
So so it's, they have the text that they have to, that's required reading, and then they select a companion text and pull from that to create, and this, so I'm trying to like.
So they
see
make
what this one-
menus and.
So this one is, I'm gonna guess it's clothing, because we've got pictures here. Yeah, but I can't read right now. This is a grant from Cape Cod 5 that can use the product for all 7th grade students.
Is there a motion?
A second.
Thank you. Any last comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Thank you
opposed?
very much.
Any abstentions? I
Yes,
know.
no, thank
Thank
you.
you
Yes.
so
And
much.
say thank you to Salt Pond, Salt Pond
Yeah.
Sanctuaries. And
So
thank you very
much
much to them
generosity.
as well, and for their continued generosity through the years.
Definitely. Okay, robotics.
Can we
Oh,
pause?
Yep, sure.
Because they're not here yet.
Oh, they're coming.
Okay. Yes,
Let's
they are.
just-
Yes, we've got a.
Okay, we'll just take it out of order.
You know, it's all right.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yep, we'll just skip that, come back to it.
Okay, so Henry, your update, goal 2, as a reminder, we shared updates on goal 3 and 4 at the last meeting, and Henry will now give us some update on goal 2. Remember, it's about our discipline, and we've made a lot of progress since your last update. So Henry, thank you.
Absolutely. So just a reminder, we had this, we're always dedicated in academics and student behavior. We say that last year in our equity audit, we saw that Falmouth needed to set a clear expectation about student conduct. Based on a lot of feedbacks, we identified there was a greater need for consistency in and across all schools. And so to address this, we said, let's really ensure what are the rules, what are the supports that we have that are fairly and equitably distributed to the school. And I'm going to say support a lot, so I mean, because I like this aspect of this goal. So our goal, which we said last time, is Falmouth Discipline Code of Conduct, along with multi-tiered systems of support, MTSS, will be consistently applied across all schools to ensure equity and effectiveness for all students. So that was our goal, and that's what we had. So what we've been doing is our action plan is we've been implementing MTSS, which is a framework to achieve academic and behavior expectations. The past year, Falmouth Schools has focused on systems of support in student behavior. One of the things that they did was a consistent. Let's make sure that we have a consistent data gathering system platform, and that's with Power School Behavior Support. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but it's the data that shows educators what we need to do for support. The next is monitoring and evaluation. We want to make sure that we have proper supports and monitoring. We want to recommit IST, our instructional support team, to make sure that it's dealing not with academic, but not only academic, but with behavior. So it's a recommitment and data analysis in there. We wanted to make sure that we have district guidance and practices. That was another thing. So we held many meetings throughout the year. One of the most, I think, more powerful one that Dr. Tellier led is our instructional leader team, where we really started looking at what we're doing and make sure that we have a consistent practice in throughout this district. So throughout, we saw different groups of people having different ideas, and then we came together and said, this is what we're going to do. That was powerful, getting the whole group in there. And then professional development. Throughout the year, there's multiple professional development to make sure that we are successful in gathering and using the tool and referral system. So we are implementing a Power School behavior support platform. It's part of Power School. It's a platform, and it basically is a centralized database to manage, to track, to analyze student supports, and to address student behavior. So that little system is one of the things that's going on. As of this year, school year, Falmouth High School, Lawrence, and Morris Pond has been fully transitioned to this platform, and they use their discipline referral process. In tangent with that, since this beginning of the year, there's been MTSS groups, team groups throughout the districts, which is learning with Katie Novak, with a PD of Building Success MTSS, learning what that means, that framework to support all kids. And so that's been a powerful, great discussion, not only having the group classes, but then coming together and saying, okay, what about in Falmouth? How is it going to be in Falmouth? So those are powerful situations. Power School has given us a lot of professional development as well. And there's going to be one that's coming up in April 15th, where we want to make sure whatever we're doing, it aligns with DESI's expectations. So that's another PD that's coming up. And in 25, 26 next year, we will have our hope is that the 4 elementary schools will be transitioning to the Power School behavior support platform as well. So this year it's all the secondary. Next year it's the elementary. By that time, the entire district will be all set. I believe that behavior is a form of communication. Behavior is a form of communication. There's good, there's bad, but whatever it is, it's a form of communication. And so the MTSS basically captures that and says, okay, if that's communication, how do we effectively address student behavior? And this Power School behavior support basically helps educators track patterns, stores interventions, and guide student growth. And like, this is working. Oh, this is not working. And so this data gathering analysis tool is really a powerful thing to help students grow. It improves, and I love the also aspect is that the platform also improves communication between teachers. Teachers can see, hey, what's going on, what behavioral supports that other teachers are doing. And what about from other grades, grade to grade, and from school to school. So these supports are powerful ways to make sure that we're not forgetting, but we're gleaning from our past and saying, yes, this works. Better information, better supports. Some may ask, what is our behavior expectation? What is the one thing that we want to build, make sure that every kid is hitting our standards? What is our graduation standards? And you have to always say, gotta remember, we got a Clipper expectation. We have Clippers they're creative, learners, inquisitive, partners, participants, effective communicators, and resilient. I think when we talk to kids about their behavior, we have to always come back and say, how are we matching up with our expectation? That this is a process. It doesn't come like they already know how to do it in the first grade kindergarten. No, it's a learned process. And I hope that we look at all behavior as a learned process, and we want to make sure all kids are successful. So I didn't tell Lori, so she's gonna be like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? I went rogue. I went rogue, and I'm gonna give, Alan is good on this. So Alan does this all the time. I'm gonna talk about Little Henry, and it's gonna be on there because I want you to know that Little Henry is why I think about the behavior. When I'm thinking about behavior, do you get it? You get playing Little Henry coming up? All right, good. When I think about tier support, I'm always thinking about Little Henry. I'm not as cute as those kids are up there. I understand that. I will commit to that. And please don't ask me what happened to me. But anyway, thank you. Thank you. So this is Little Henry first grade. And so when I'm talking about behavior, I want us to think about us, ourselves. Don't look at someone else. Don't look at that other person. When I talk to parents about behavior, I'm thinking about that parent who's looking at their kid, not as a 17-year-old, but as their first grade. And so we have to always really rethink about when we deal with discipline and behavior, let's make sure we have a little Henry in our mindset. So if we think about MTSS, these supports that we have, the first tier is a universal foundational tier. So every teacher is going to instruct behavior clipper expectation. Here's your clipper expectation. Here it is. These are the patterns. And if there's anything that goes a little awry, they're a little off, a teacher can go into this platform and start tracking. Hey, this is not going off, and they can, track and see, okay, what interventions I can do. And at certain points, they may have interventions, and they put it in there, and it's stored first tier. Everyone gets it. Everything's all set. Little Henry over here, this is Alan. Alan uses little Alan, but I'm going to say little Henry over here frequently cuts in front of the line in school. He's a north. He's cutting every time, and the teacher recognizes the pattern, not just one time, but it's all the time. And so this teacher will initiate a call home and say, hey, listen, this is what's going on. And maybe we'll start putting, whenever there's a line, maybe stickers on the ground. There's a consequence to it, as well as a learning partner, a learning structure. And I would say this is Henry learning to be good partners. You can't cut people if you're not a good partner unless you do this. And I think that needs to be communicated at the tier 1 level. Tier 2 is a little bit, targeted support. And so what might happen is that a educator will start saying, okay, I'm seeing bigger patterns. I'm seeing there's more that I need. I need maybe someone coming outside to come and talk to me, and maybe we can deal with this. And an IST would be a great format where we're going to say, let's study little Henry. There's something going on here. Let's study him a little more, and let's make some recommendations, more interventions. It's in the classroom. Little Henry's still in the classroom. There's going on. So the example is here, I start pushing, little Henry starts pushing, and maybe what was decided at an intervention might be a restorative circle and say, hey, let's talk about what happens when you push. What are the harms you have? And the circle may have a consequence. Little Henry, this is your consequence. And little Henry learns what it means to harm others and make sure that you're good partners. Again, a tier 2 in, boom. Tier 3, extensive support, and that's what happened. So what we decided in a district meeting, in an district meeting, we said, you know what, Massachusetts has lots of requirements. If there is a behavior situation, you have to report it, and that's there's no wiggle room on that. And we said, you know what, that is going to be our standard for what we're going to put in Power School in our log entries. And we said, this is going to be the ones. These are the major ones. Other ones are supports, but these are the ones that we're going to make sure that it's going to be logged in. So not only is it going to go with state, but it's going to be in Power School logins. And so therefore, not only you'll have a suspension for this, maybe a suspension, but there will be a plan for continued support. Again, little Henry pushes, and the push starts to becoming a little physical, and it's a fight. I never fought. No, that's not true. Anyway, so a fight comes in, leads to a suspension. Upon return, little Henry talks to principal. Maybe it's Mr. Doc over there, talks to Doc and says, hey, listen, he will re-entry with me and maybe establish a transition plan. What other support you need? You've got your consequence, we got that, but what do you might need to have there? You might need an adjustment counselor, maybe assign a mentor. And so again, the support continues to continue. Christian, get rid of little Henry now. So in conclusion, I think the Falmouth School is a school of supports. We have times we have consequences, and we have to do, students have natural responses of their actions, but we want to make sure that we are a school that supports and learning. Every action, everything we're doing, we're learning, we're doing that. So we're committed to school students in educating and supporting all students. We want to implement consistent discipline no matter where we're at. We want to leverage data. I love the data that we're talking about here. This is in that Power School. We want to foster a system of supports so that all kids, when they graduate, the clipper expectation is very clear, and we can say Falmouth continues to build a safe, supportive, equitable learning, supported environment so that all kids can learn, can grow, can thrive, and can succeed. And so that's what we've been doing. And please forgive me for my little Henry presentation, but that's what I got. We got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have a
Questions?
picture of little Doc?
Oh, little Doc. Oh, that's next time. We're gonna take this on the road. We're gonna take that on the road. Little Doc's coming soon. We'll get that.
Melissa.
I have two questions.
Yes.
Previously, was there a communication tool, year to year, school to school, teacher to teacher? And I don't want to diminish word of mouth, or was it kind of just, well, little Melissa had Miss Welch last year, and sitting her in the corner wasn't effective. However, letting her do some interpretive dance was effective. Then does she tell Mrs. Medeiros that next year? Like what previously to this platform, how were things like this shared? Because I know that obviously.
Yeah,
we're
you
not
can help me,
starting
but
from
I'll tell you this on, there are files, and the teacher will have to go into a file and see what happened before. Usually when it goes school to school, the adjustment councils will talk about students that are there, but maybe it's a high risk, but I think it should be every student, like, I don't want anyone to be fall underneath, oh, you gotta remember this person here because Paul is really bad, so we gotta talk about we don't want to make sure that we're talking to everyone. I don't want anyone to be misguided. So I think you get the holistic aspect of it and not
at your fingertips as
yes.
opposed to going to look in a file.
Yes.
Okay. And then if I may, my next question, when you mentioned mentor, was that a peer mentor or an adult mentor?
I've seen both work real well.
Okay.
I would love to see the Lawrence students going down to Mulhall. I've just been blessed by seeing their peer mentoring that's going on there. I know there's always transportation issues there, but I would love to see that. And I would love to see mentors that are, how can I say this? Mentors that have been maybe experienced some difficulties in discipline in the past and come back and say, I learned stuff.
Sure.
Let me come and help you. Sometimes we have mentors that are been awesome the entire, for instance, kindergarten, but I love to see that array of mentors to be allowed to do that, diversity of mentors. But clearly we have a great VIPS organization that come in, and I would love that happens, that you can come in, maybe some adults today, I don't know academics, but I know how to behave and I know proper behavior, and let me share that with someone. I would love that, because we have students that they do well, but it is a challenge for behavior. So we have to look at it as both academic. We're academic, and we want behavior supports.
Sorry, Kelly, if I may, one more.
Yeah,
When you
one
say-
more.
Sorry, back to mentors. When
Okay.
you say peer mentor, so it wouldn't be like a 7th grader to a 7th grader.
No.
Like, listen, Lori, you can't be doing that in the middle of class. Like right now, we're doing this. So that's not.
No.
It's always a older mentor to a younger. So peer meaning like elementary age or school age child.
However, with instruction and I've seen restorative circles with peers their age, but they have to be trained, they have to know all this stuff. But I've seen powerful situation where students will come in and they'll have a peer mentor kind of discussion. So it can be done. We're not ready, but it can be done.
No more questions. Thank you.
Other questions? So if Power School has now gone to Lawrence Morrison, the high school, what has the elementary school been using this year? That's sort of part one of my question.
So part one, they've been using the Google, what's it called? The Google Studio that's been going on. And so they have something, but it's only among, their area. We just feel like this would be a step up. It'll be a step up to their referral process.
Okay, and then part two of the question is about the goal, because if the goal, I'm just wondering kind of, is this a 2-year goal that you have in mind? Because if you've got the goal that we're going to have equitable and consistent distribution of this,
but it's only at 3 of the 7 schools this year. Do you expect to meet the goal this year?
Yeah, I definitely, and two is really kind of short too. I definitely expect the goal to be the secondary next year, definitely the elementary, but then, you know, we need some feedback from community members, from our parents, to say how are things going. So I think it'll be a journey, and I think it's important that we take care of our student behavior effectively. So yeah, so not this year.
Not this year. So, but the goal for this year was kind of specific about having consistency, but that's not possible because there is.
It was getting the consistency. And that's what we've been building, the consistency from K to 12. Even if the elementary isn't going to implement that next year, we've been doing the work of the alignment across grades.
The elementary leaders have been with the MTSS training. They've been without discussion. Principals are definitely a part of the discussion. Assistant principals are going to these meetings. So they're prepping. They're seeing what's going on, and they're like, okay, we're going to get to that level. So it's been, they're not ignored. They're part of it.
One more. Do you expect Power School behavior to be implemented in the elementary school next year? Like it would get rolled out next year?
That's the hope, that
like in September?
The hope is if we can get everything in order, that Power School, the support, behavior support will be effective for next year. That is going to be our target.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Henry, how are you?
We're not sitting together.
I know, I moved, kind of messed up, whatever. All right, so to piggyback on what Katrina said, you got all these 4th grade students. If there are some that need more support, I forget the term.
Tier 3.
Yeah, tier 3, there you go. Is there a way to have their Power School going into Morris Bond to have some of those notes?
Yeah, so it is.
For the ones who are tier 3 or tier 2, you know what I'm saying?
Tier 1.
Tier
Like
1,
if
they go in there, it's like, okay, we're coming in, the student needs this help, this.
And so there's some things that we put in for teachers for their own data point, but it's that student, and now a new teacher has that student and can see some of the interventions that happen and say, oh, this works here, let's try that. So it's in all the tiers.
Because if you can implement the Power School to elementary schools next year, those 4th to 5th have kind of like an open year.
Yeah.
And going into a new school, all new kids, all that. That's all I have. Thank you, Henry.
That's a good question. That's very good.
Oh, sorry, Chris.
Hi. My question is kind of more from like the application point of view. So, and to kind of piggyback on Mike, so once Power School is implemented at the elementary schools, essentially a high school teacher could look back at a student that's kind of gone through the system and look and see kind of what behavioral supports that have been needed since like elementary school, where at any point they can kind of keep track of what is that kind of how, once it's in the system of Power School, like any teacher has access?
No, only a teacher that is with that student. Right. You won't have anything like that. And we could have possible, I'm afraid, I don't want to say that we can take it away, but I think it's important that we see the growth of students. And so we're going to keep those
right
there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I was thinking it'd be important to kind of have that history to be able to see that from start.
And those are our supports. There's another, when we talk about discipline behavior, that's another area there that happens. That'll be in Power School, as this is your discipline that we have here. But supports are here, and these are all the solutions. These are all the interventions we have. And then if I look up Henry as a 7th grader, what do I have here? It won't be those supports. It would actually be any kind of tier 3 discipline that I have there. So it's different.
So it'd be like a kind of, they're all still in Power School, but they're kind of in different.
And only administration has those eyes.
Gotcha. In terms of the discipline. And in terms of like the support, is it more, and I'm forgetting the term, but where like a teacher tries a support and says, well, in terms of like the stickers on the floor, is there like a drop down menu of like things they can try, or is it something where they just put in what they tried and what worked? Like, are there suggestions kind of already in there?
Well, I think sports have to be long. You know, if someone says, I did it one day. No, it's got to be, 4 weeks, of trying some situation there. But building up the MTSS system, I think that needs to be what teachers are doing. Like, what are the other means to get them? So I think that has to be an all district kind of, and also by what we do in elementary is not going to be the same thing that we'll do in the secondary. So those supports will have to be differentiated. But we need to continue building, and we've got some supports right now. But I can't tell you right offhand.
Sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, I think it would be extremely helpful once you get to that point, like to kind of see a demonstration of what, like kind of like an example case or something. Not obviously not related to a specific student, but just something, just so we can kind of see how, at least for me, just to
maybe little Henry come back one time. You think we can do that?
I was gonna say, little Henry, yeah.
And then I think my only other question is in terms of kind of measurement of success, like when this is implemented, like how do we have an idea of if it's going to be like surveys to families and teachers, if it's going to be like, as you look in Power School, you see a decrease in kind of behavioral issues or less supports needed. Has there been any kind of thought in terms of?
I really struggle with that, seeing it, because I think if we really dig into our discipline, we might have a spike initially. Saying, hey, listen, we're gonna really get into it. And that might be a spike, but that means that we are really engaging a student's behavior. And so I don't want to say but I think long term, we're dealing it. And I think parents will say, yes, I'm so sad. I love what parent said here. He goes, the support my child got with her IP student that had an IP. I think I would love to have that same evaluation, because I love how our schools have been engaging with our kids. And my student did something wrong, but they came in there and supported them and said, we see it's a journey and you're going to continue. So I would love that to be the case, but I'm not going to say guaranteed next year it's going to be smooth.
Right. Yeah, no, I can kind of see, like, as the system's implemented, like you may have a spike as you recognize more things. Absolutely. And kind of more long term. Yep. To kind of see that steady state. Absolutely. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Margaret.
Even kids with discipline problems have strength. And I'm wondering if there's any element of focusing on the strengths when we're talking about discipline. I mean, because discipline sounds a bit.
Yeah. I don't like to use the word.
Not bad. I didn't want to.
Well, under the behavior support section, it is all strength-based. It's about finding out what's working for the student and building upon that. But there is the element you have to move to the reporting side on a discipline that's required by DESE. But the behavioral support system, which is really what we're trying to build and have something across the years, is really about strength-based. Find what's working for a student.
When I mention strengths, I don't just mean what's working. That every person has strength, even if they have discipline.
Yes.
So is there a way to locate what the student's strengths are?
That's part of that process, of finding out for that student what's working for them. It's drawing those strengths out of the student. And I apologize, I didn't say it well.
No.
I don't want to keep our robotics team, but I wanted to ask one more. Just in terms of how the teachers have been adapting to using Power School, have you gotten positive feedback, or do they feel like it's extra work? Or
I would love to have some. What I've heard, this is what I've gleaned, is that teachers like that when they have a situation and they put it into the behavior support. There's a direct, immediate connection with administration. They don't have to get involved or not. And then and they can also see, this is secondary, so students go to different classes. They can see, oh, little Henry had, there was some supports going on with little Henry in one class, and then that teacher can basically say, all right, let's see if we can work with him, continue that support.
like collaborate between classes.
Collaboration, so that
that's making it
communication.
easier.
And that's what teachers like. They like to say, oh, there's something going. So let's make sure that little Henry is taken care of, and I see that support. Let's continue that in the next class. So that I've heard was what teachers said, this is a good thing. Now, the level of what they put on there, it's up to them. It's, I'm not saying, but I think once a teacher sees a pattern, like the first time Henry cuts, don't worry. But I see he's cutting a lot. Wait a minute, let's put this down. There might be something there. So I don't think that's something that you have to, right? And it's quick.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
like powers boom. You're
They're
all
not
set.
finding it onerous or adding
Yeah.
extra work for them.
No.
Okay, good. Thank
But
you.
we have to continue. We have to continue asking educators about that. And we had to come back and talk to Power School and say, hey, listen, there's things that we have to work on. So we're gonna continue figuring out the bumps in there.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry.
Give a warm welcome to our Regal Seagulls.
Thank you.
This is great.
Wow. Wow. I've heard all about you.
Wow.
So this is our robot Lulu.
Hello,
And
Lulu.
also I have some members here from the Regal Seagulls Robotics team from Falmouth High School and Lawrence. So we have Ethan Parmentier, who is our computer scientist and coding guru. We have Ira Strickland, who is our Samantha Irving, who is our resident mechanical engineer who can fix anything that's wrong with Lulu. So we walk her here tonight. Ethan is going to tell you a little bit about how the game is played, and Violet is going to demonstrate her driving skills, and we're going to play catch.
There's a couple of objectives in this particular first robotics tournament. It changes every year. This time we have to get the big rubber balls, otherwise known as algae, into storing areas known as processors. It's basically like playing soccer. And then the other objective is the coral, the big PVC pipes. We have to get this into what's known as a trough. As same as demonstrating, just a big bowl. And you load those just into the top, but the algae you have to pick up. You have to design anything. Which.
Oh my gosh.
So we're going
Oh, holy cow. That is amazing.
There's a couple other things we can do, but we're not able to demonstrate them today. One of the things is this entire robot is able to fly. There will be stages along the entire field, at the center of the field, and at the very end of the match, all 90 pounds of Lulu is lifted into the air. The contraption, the winch climber that we have constructed is running off of 3 gearboxes in total for every 100 rotations of the motor. There's 1 rotation of the actual shaft, and we calculated that it's not enough to lift up a car, so it's more than redundant.
Is this starting to be here when the weight pushes back, it locks, and then
Reels us in.
Oh my gosh.
That's how it climbs?
Basically, it's just the wheels can't be touching the ground.
Yes, that's it, yeah.
We just get off.
Lift the car.
Just like that. Like it's on.
It could theoretically lift the car.
we haven't tested
Not exactly something that's in our budget range. Another function that we're able to do is autonomous. Also something we're not able to demonstrate too effectively because we don't want to run someone over. This isn't the actual field, but this thing for the first 20 seconds will be able to move independently of driver control. Again, we're not really able to demonstrate that, but we have done this reliably enough that we have almost every match at our last game gotten the rating point for autonomous scoring. This and the climber are the 2 things most crucial to enable us to go to districts, which we will now do. From April 2nd to I believe April 5th,
Nice.
we shall be in Springfield, Massachusetts,
thought we were just approving a field trip. We had no idea we were gonna get treated to
Make
this.
sure you approve the bill. So they received this award, let me introduce Mel Myansky and Andrew Cousins. Andrew's the advisor. They've done great. So you can talk a little bit about Rescape in a second, but this is their rookie award. So this is their first year in the first competition. And then they received this other big, beautiful kind of thing that I didn't understand the three things, but I was gonna have to describe what it was.
It's the first symbol, it has the triangle symbol.
And that's the first, that's first, anyways, they got stuff, but, to be a rookie in a couple weekends ago, they, competed and, they came in third, as a rookie team, and then the weekend after that, they, out of all the teams, there's only 8 captains chosen, and they were one of the 8, they were actually number 5, they chose, so they got to have their own team, and they continued to compete. I'm so proud. I'm gonna let you guys talk about what all this means.
So that's the Rookie All-Star Award. So at every event, and so when you sign up for first, you're allowed to go to 2 events, 2 district-wide events. We put off-season competitions like the Flipper Clash we ran in Falmouth last summer. But you can go to 2 competitions, and basically, however many points you score, will then determine whether or not you're going to move districts. So at every event of all the rookie teams that are there, they pick one. They come around and they interview the kids. They ask about the robot. They ask about how they got their funding. They ask about their team structure. They want to get a good idea of everything. That's it. I would just like to add, I don't know if you're about to mention it. With the rookie award, there can be multiple rookies and they don't give out the award, or there can be one and they do give out the award. It's the judge's decision of whether or not there is a rookie that deserves the award. I forget one of the competitions apparently had 3 different rookie teams and they did give out the award. So us winning was a big deal, right? They could have chosen not to give a rookie award. They don't have to, but they decided that we were deserving of a rookie award.
A little bit about the Rescape, because it's pretty cool that this was every year, so different theme.
Yep.
So you go in January, and have your robot ready in March, but talk about so you guys went to kickoff, right?
So this was their first ever kickoff. Mine off. Not Andrew's first. Andrew is actually the first alumni student who is in high school.
Yeah,
Which is why I recruited him. I was like, you're gonna help me with the team. So anyways, every year they come up with a theme. So this year's theme was Reefscape, and I feel like it was an appropriate time for Falmouth High School to make a debut first, because we're on the ocean. And we are the only first team on Cape Cod. There's never been a first team before us. We're the first. And the only right now. So basically they have a theme and they work this competition around a theme. Last year it was crescendo, it was all about music, and that's what Flipper Clash was. This year it's Reefscape, and it's all about taking care of our oceans, fixing the coral reefs, managing algae. So it's all along that theme. Now, in addition to that, First contacted us and said, hey, every year at district championships, we label the fields after some people in STEM, some scientists in STEM. They said, we'd like to actually have someone from Bowie be, which is Heidi Sosa. And so they got a hold of me, and I got them to Heidi, and they got a hold of her. And so now the 2 fields that we're playing on are Ballard.
Ballard, and what was the other one?
Sosa.
It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, did you share like why you were interested in robotics? What got you into this club?
Well, what I really like about FIRST is really in the name. The acronym stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. And really, it's just a combined, really just display of every single discipline of science and engineering kind of wrapped up into one. We have software engineering, we have mechanical engineering, we have a lot of design with CAD, we have a lot of machining going on here, we have a lot of practical things like greasing the wheels, making sure all the math is right. There's a lot of math involved,
And so what I just liked about it is the fact that every single aspect is completely up to our team. Unlike events which we had done in previous years where parts were given to us, we basically just make all of this. And I found that really meaningful and really incredible. We've done a couple very rookie team-ish things. One of which being this weight, which is actually used to balance out the climber. There's a bit of a weight distribution issue where this PDH, which connects all the electrical components, is heavier than all the components on the right side of the robot. And so to balance this, we just took a 18-pound weight and strapped it down. Additionally, Violet, if you were to enable the algae intake, right there that you just saw giving tension to the algae intake is actually a retractable ID badge holder. There's a lot of zip ties, a bit of duct tape. There's a lot of zip ties. And yeah, it's been running very smooth, very consistent. The biggest goal was consistency. We didn't want to overreach and have a good robot that only worked some of the time. We wanted a robot that always performed exactly the same and exactly as well. And I think that's the reason we ended up being drafted by a team and ended up drafting a team in the next event. It's just because when other teams had issues, because their mechanisms were significantly more advanced, because they hadn't sorted out all the code yet, they had some bugs, ours was working perfectly fine. And so we've kind of been able to punch way above our weight class just because we have really just been doing the same thing the whole time just as well.
So Violet, can you share why are you? Why did you get involved with robotics?
My parents did engineering in college and high school, and I've always sort of been fascinated by computers. And when I heard there was an opportunity for me to do engineering at my local high school, I decided to join, and it has been an amazing experience. She's an amazing driver.
She's 8th grade Lawrence. We have 3 8th grade students on the high school team, and they selected Violet to be the driver, pilot, controller. I keep calling it something different. They all work, but anyway, I do think it's amazing that she was selected to actually drive. And Sam too.
Well, I do woodshop at the high school, and so I've always loved working with my hands. So I thought this was a great experience. I've been able to learn a lot of new skills of working with like wrenches and just working with metal in general. So I've had a really fun time doing a lot of the building. I'm not a computer person. I leave that to them. I'm the person who helps build and lift up the robot. And then I guess my favorite part about FIRST is simply how nice everyone is. You'd think you were in the Midwest. We've had multiple teams come up to us, help us out. One of the teams from Bridgewater is actually like helping us actually drive to Springfield. And just everyone's so nice. I've made so many new friends over just like the past week. It's just such a great program that I'm really glad that we are now allowed to be a part of.
Oh, thank you so much.
Nice.
Nathan McGuire was not able to be here tonight, but he's been a volunteer from CUNY, and he's been working alongside. And he's also a FIRST alumni and has been FIRST mentor for years, just about 4 in school, 4 afterwards. So he's definitely very useful part of it. He's doing his real job. So speaking, you may have questions for them, and then I'll go into the.
Are there questions? Who did the artwork? And your shirts?
Me and Izzy, Isabel, she did the original art, and then together we drew multiple books.
Love it.
So what grades are you all in?
I'm currently 8th
You're
grade.
8th.
I'm a junior in high school.
And I'm a sophomore.
Okay, that was all. Good job, everyone. I just didn't know how old you were.
We do have other team members, they're just not here.
Yeah.
4 or 5 other kids.
Awesome.
So Springfield, they've been invited, you have to be invited to the states, and they've been invited. We which they already gave your dates. Thank you. It's coming next week. So we challenged them to see if they could raise some of the funds, and in your packet, you saw that the original estimate was a little over 11,000. Carmela's done an amazing job to bring the cost down. We're at 9,910. So, okay, almost 10,000. So I just want you to know that we are going to make sure that you go raise some money. You can put some, sponsors on, great. But the district's definitely going to cover the costs, so it should be at the state.
But you have to come back and give us an update.
And lift a car.
Oh, that would be great. Can we get
So
that?
I will give you the link that you guys have it. It was amazing. I actually did that the last time. I saw, your whole competitions are there. I had so much fun sitting on my couch all afternoon watching them. That was that Saturday. After that, yeah, because in the morning we were at the state fair. So it's a lot of fun to watch it actually. So I will make sure you guys have links and you can actually watch it.
Because I know my father works here, and one of the other students' mother also worked here. So I think it was the Thursday or Friday that we were at our competition. Must have been Friday because we were at school, or we weren't at school. But they had it in their classrooms. So
I did. I came and I was watching you guys. I forgot all about that. I did.
So like great that you are trying to get this out to the younger kids as well. I thought I was thinking of starting a league somewhere in elementary school. I don't know when that'll get to this, but the idea has been put out.
Love that.
Good idea.
How many other schools are competing in the state competition?
Well, there's 96 spots available at district championships, but there's about 191 teams in New England. It's the whole district.
Oh, so it's the New England Championship, not the state.
New England district championship.
Oh, okay.
Even more impressive.
I guess you want more money.
Well, if they make it to Worlds, we'll have to.
Get the Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's send them. Is there a motion to
Can I
approve?
do this over Mike this time?
Yes.
I'll let you.
All right, thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Melissa. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Any abstention? No, of course not.
Oh.
I don't know what you say for robotics. You don't say break a leg. You don't say have a good game. So
Break a
I don't
wrench,
know.
guys.
Break up.
Yeah, just whatever is the right thing.
I like it.
Wait, say
Bring a wrench. Yes.
Break a wrench. No.
Wrenches and shoes.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Congratulations and good luck.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, so cool. Yeah, I didn't know that they were coming. It's so great.
Maybe it's just to let people know it's coming.
Oh.
So many questions.
Okay, next up is the update from Office of Teaching and Learning.
Okay, so Dr. Tellier will now give an update on goal 1 as well as the mid-year.
We missed Connor. Ahern had a question. I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize, Connor. I think we missed you. Did you have a question about the robotics? I wasn't looking down, so I didn't notice your hand was raised. Nope, okay.
All right, so Dr. Tellier is going to talk about goal 1 as well as the mid-year progress and progress with the grading and how all of it is a part of goal 1. So, Sonia?
All right, thank you. All right, so I've got a few things I'm going to speak from that are also showing on the screen across. So relative to goal 1, just as a reminder, because, wow, it shows up tiny over there. Our goal statement said that we believe in Falmouth that all students will have a sense of belonging, that they will know that they are valued for their unique identities, strengths, interests, needs, languages, exceptionalities, and background. And within that, we broke the 3 focus areas for this year into the selection of instructional materials, professional development and resources, and as Henry was mentioning, our multi-tiered system of support, our implementation and training. So in this first part, I want to look at the relationship between our selection of instructional materials and professional development and resources. And before I go further into the look at the data that connects to this, I just want to share that in our work this year, the selection of instructional materials has to meet the standard from the Department of Education of being high quality instructional materials, and they give us a set of parameters around that. And part of it ties to, as Henry said, the academic side of multi-tiered systems of support and being able to have differentiated supports for students. So this year we were able to continue year 2 implementation of our math program for kindergarten through grade 8, which is iReady Mathematics. We introduced investigating history at grades 5 and 6, and a shout out to the Morse Pond teachers and Mike Feeney for their work. They've given us extremely positive feedback about the investigating history series. We've updated some of our resources for English language development for our multilingual learners of English. And also we're in the process right now of selecting our new literacy program, which will be for kindergarten through grade 6. And their decision we hope to have within the week. They're just finishing field testing. But with that, what I think is really important in the second part of my update, so as Dr. Dorr said, it's tied to the goal, is just to look at some of the data. So a year ago, when we did the middle of the year look at students learning in mathematics, this was how the 6 schools sort of plotted. They were between the upper 2 quadrants. On the upper left side, which is a little bit of a darker gray, is low performance with high growth. And on the right side of the top is high performance and high growth. So this was a year ago. When we took the same snapshot this year, all of our schools are in the high performance and high growth quadrant. So when we're thinking about this from the perspective of our goal, this data indicates that yes, we selected high quality instructional materials, the professional development that we're providing to our teachers is effective, and that it's translating into stronger student outcomes for our Clippers. So when we think about that, iReady measures student performance relative to 2 goals. The first is their typical growth, which is the expectation that they grow 1 year in 1 year's time, right? So they meet the expectation for their grade level. That's the one on in the lower part, it's on the left. It's also the one that's tracking at the top. So about 70% of our students are on track for their 1 year's growth in 1 year's time. So in the middle of the year, that's a pretty strong indicator. What's even more powerful is that on the set of bars on the lower right is the student's performance relative to their stretch goal. And their stretch goal means that if at the beginning of the year, there was an indication that they were performing below grade level, that's what starts to accelerate them beyond their current grade level to close that gap. So right now we have, it's about 45% of our students on track to meet their stretch goal by the end of this year as well. And so that's where we're making the impact, when we're talking about students who need a little bit more support to get up to grade level. That's where we're making that impact. And part of that, again, to link to the multi-tiered system of support, when they finish their diagnostics, students are also assigned personalized lessons in MyPath. So they have their tier 1, right, that core instruction that every student has in math at their grade level. And then they have those personalized lessons that are picking different skills and needs that they have and giving them those additional exposures. They're also working with their teachers in small groups and sometimes, with other peers, but they're getting both rather than one or the other. And then that's what we're seeing in the data that's there.
This data is it teacher test or is it full test? What are we measuring against?
Yep. So these are national norms. So they're set across all users of iReady, which is a pretty predominantly used benchmark system. We use the screening or the benchmark assessments and the curriculum, so they go together. Some districts choose to only use the screeners. And so at the beginning of the year, the students take the screener, it sets them up on their mind path and also lets their teacher know where they are in each of the standards. They do it again in late January, early February, so this is the comparison. These are, our standards are used in the curriculum, and then the norms are national norms based on all of the students who take this benchmark.
Sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
I'm glad you're asking questions. Nope, I'm glad you're asking questions. And I know Karen Carson and Robin Bowerman had come and shared a little bit of this data with us in the fall, and they were really encouraged by last year. And when they came and they were sharing, Karen was talking about it. She's the one who added the bright spots graphic because she's like, it's just so encouraging. Year one was so encouraging, and then to see the growth in year two, even more so. So moving from math, what we did this year while we're evaluating the literacy curriculum, we introduced new screeners. We needed to have the screeners in literacy. So for grades 4 through 6, we chose iReady after our evaluation. So I can present the data for 4 to 6. Looks very similar to what you just saw. And then I'll explain to you what we're using for kindergarten. So for our students in grades 4 through 6, again, thinking about that baseline data, this is the first year and we haven't changed the curriculum. So just like you saw with math, where we saw we were in the 2 different quadrants, we're placing in literacy grades 4 through 6 in those same 2 quadrants. So on the left side, low performance, still high growth. On the right side, high performance, high growth. And so that sets for us the baseline. And then when we make that same view, 83% of our students were on track, 50% or more relative to their typical growth. And then similarly, we're seeing a number of students on track, just shy of 50% for their stretch growth. So again, driving at skills that they needed additional instruction and support on and being able to meet those. So it looks a little bit different. Yeah, can I ask we a do a question? question? Oh, sure. Sorry. You don't have to go back. I just wondered, were you measuring the typical annual growth and the stretch growth previously to starting with iReady? Or is this just something you're doing now with iReady? iReady gives us the ability to look at the stretch growth. We historically had used FastBridge as our screening, and so it looked at the year itself, but it didn't necessarily look at the acceleration of how a student can get to that stretch to close any skill gaps.
Okay. I was just wondering if you had compared to more than just last year and this year
Yeah.
within the new curriculum.
So unfortunately, the older screener didn't do that. It would only measure in that year. It had national norms, but it was still only measuring that year against other students who were learning and assessing that year.
What was it called again?
FastBridge.
FastBridge. Thank you.
So for kindergarten through grade 3, we chose a different screener. In kindergarten through grade 3, following the state guidance, we need to make sure that we're properly assessing to determine if any students have dyslexia. And in that, we chose to use M-Class, which is powered by Dibbles. So this is the 8th edition Dibbles, which is a well-known literacy screener. It's aligned to the science of reading and helps us not only to assess and determine around dyslexia, but also the discrete skills for early literacy so that we can find any skills that may affect a student's reading ability longer term and isolate and respond to that. So unfortunately, I can see how small it is over there. What this shows is just, it's not the data, it's the battery of tests that students take. So for kindergarten and grade 1, they do letter naming fluency, and then phoneme segmentation, so learning to break down the words into their individual sounds. They add in grade 2 and 3 their alphabet nonsense words, right? Being able to read a word based on the sounds and the phonetics, word reading fluency, and then it gets up into oral reading fluency. And then the last column we don't use it for the test that it isolates for fourth and fifth grade because we use iReady, which gets into the longer text and a little bit more sophisticated reading. So the important part here when we're looking at how our students are doing is that the red bars are getting smaller, the blue bars, the green bars are getting larger, and our students, that's from beginning of year on the top line in each grade level to the middle of the year. But what's really important is that those bars are shifting and the students are getting more complex text to read. And then when we select our new curriculum, which will also be aligned to the science of reading, it'll be knowledge building. It'll align also with these graders. So this baseline really sets the stage for us to be able to measure the impact of learning with our new curriculum next year. What is M class and boy and Moy? Boy is beginning of year and Moy is middle of year.
Okay.
So that's the comparison, just like with iReady, when we're talking about the fall and winter. That's a comparison of where students were late September to late January, early February.
And M classes.
M class is the screener. It's by Dibbles. So it's
Oh, it's
one
the name of the,
Yeah, it's the name of the screener. And then each of the screeners also provides instructional recommendations, just like the Mind Path and iReady, to be able to isolate and provide students personalized learning experiences.
So will you keep that same screener next year when you have a different?
Yes.
You will, okay. So the program that you're transitioning to next year does not have a screener component in it?
The two finalists do not have screener components that are as comprehensive as these. And one of the things we did in evaluating these was making sure that we were looking at screeners that many districts were using regardless of their curriculum and still able to use the personalized learning that comes with the screeners as well as then make alignment to yeah, you will. Great question. So the data there connects to, as I shared earlier, the selection of instructional materials, but then also the work that we're doing with professional development. And as Henry mentioned, one of our partners this year for professional development is Katie Novak from Novak Education. And Katie Novak has partnered with us. She's done some whole school professional development, both for elementary and Morse Pond in the district. But for our instructional leaders, our department heads, APs, and our principals, she's been meeting with them once a month in a cohort format. And each month they go through a different assignment. And what it's doing is it's allowing us to build a vertical plan for ourselves that addresses a number of different components. So part of it is how we plan instructional or professional development. Part of it is how we respond to our data. Part of it is how we build out our master schedules to make sure that we have the appropriate time and resources to provide the personalized instruction. And we plan to continue working with Katie going into next year to implement and fine tune some of the things that we've been learning through our work with her, especially as we get deeper into universal design for learning, which is just another way of how we design instruction at Tier 1 to really make sure it's accessible to all students. You know, one of the things when Henry and I look at goal 1 and goal 2, the relationship, when we talk about meeting students where they are, these are the different access points that we want to make sure we have laid out so students can get into their learning and be able to recover and push ahead. One of the other things I know Henry had mentioned was the instructional support team, right? In the process that we're going through to revise the instructional support team, looking at behavior as well as instruction. And one of the things that that's helping us do also in using our data is plan for our intervention blocks that we have at our schools. So the wind blocks in the elementary and Morse Pond, which shift a little bit in nature and developmentally in an appropriate fashion to the use of Bulldog and Clipper time in the upper grades. So we have that vertical connection there as well. So with all of that work and all of the things that we're doing to make sure that not only do we have the high quality instructional materials and we have the different on-ramps for students into their learning, we also need to make sure that we're providing appropriate feedback. So all of this sort of links into the conversation about where we are right now with grading and grading for proficiency. So in each of our professional development sessions with our teachers, we start out with just reconnecting and reminding ourselves of the why of this work. So we want to make sure that we're representing the updated DESI standards. It's one of the things that needs to make its way to our report cards. Implementing evidence and research-based practices, which is part of that standard for high-quality instructional materials that DESI sets out. We want to focus on what students are learning, not necessarily just what teachers are teaching. It's important that we have the materials. It's important that we follow the instructional model, but then we also need to have the data about the impact on the students and what they're learning, and having those places where we can meet students where they are. Been very intentional in our process of making sure that we're aligning vertically and horizontally. So even when we're selecting the priority standards, which are ultimately the standards that get updated to the report card, our teachers have laid them out and made sure they didn't overemphasize one particular concept in a subject to actually ignore or de-emphasize something else. They've looked at it over time with the thought about making sure students have a complete, consistent experience to transition and respond, and then clarifying what that communication will look like for families around those standards. So these are just the overarching pieces that we've been conducting the proficiency scale field test. So when we isolated or identified our priority standards for each of them, we wanted to be able to have a tool so that our teachers could talk with each other to calibrate what they're doing, talk with families about how a student is learning and where they are with each standard. So we have a scale that shows what it would look like at each of the grading thresholds. So we had historically used 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to show you in a minute what we're using. We actually laid it out each step, what learning looks like. We've involved our elementary principals, our grade level leaders, which are our teacher leaders. There's one for each grade at each of the schools, so they become like a cabinet, right? They're providing information and assisting with communication. They actually run their grade level meetings at their schools, and they're instrumental in helping us prioritize and set the stage for each professional development session. So at the simplest level, this is what the proficiency scale looks like. So instead of having numbers or single letters like an A and B, you have 4 stages for each standard. This is our scale in working towards proficiency. So for each standard, it starts with beginning, where a student enters their learning, developing, progressing, and then ultimately meeting the standard. And meeting the standard or having proficiency is the benchmark, so we've highlighted it in green. So we had isolated one standard for you to consider, which is a geography standard from 4th grade social studies for North America. And at the bottom, it literally says, I'm just beginning to engage with this concept. There's no expectation of what they can do or can recall. But when they get to developing, it says, I can recognize and recall specific terminology such as North America. I can identify the scale on the map, hear the legend, the physical features like mountains and rivers. It gets up to progressing, where it gets a little bit more sophisticated. They're using cardinal directions. They can apply different scales to different maps and find the features. And then at the top, it's the standard. I can use cardinal directions, map scales, keys and legends, and the titles to locate and identify important physical features of North America. So this happens to be a geography standard. It's a relatively short unit where the students are working with the maps and talking about physical features. But this same process applies to each of the standards. So when teachers are providing scores on report cards, they would be able to use this to help calibrate and make a decision. And I think one of the things that was particularly important when we were working with not just our teachers in professional development or with our grade level leaders, but also with the family grading advisory that stood out for us that we really needed to put attention to was the difference or the relationship between what a 2 and a 3 were on our report cards. And how often a 3 just people were sometimes putting it up because it was comfortable or students could do do most of the work. And then it wasn't necessarily translating into the data, for example, like the benchmarks and some of the things that we're planning for instruction. So as we were preparing for our next steps in professional development, I thought it was important that we just touch on some of the timelines and milestones. Sorry, Chris, I noticed Chris has a question too.
I said, in terms of, so for the teachers, are they, like on whatever specific units they're teaching, are they kind of using that for like units and then they kind of gather up like all of those that they've done for all the different units to meet the standards that they're teaching, and then they kind of use that information to kind of, I'm losing the word, but to kind of essentially tell them what to put down for their report cards? Okay.
So for science and social studies, because they're a little bit more content heavy, it's by unit. For math and literacy, because a lot of those skills get revisited, it kind of crosses a greater span of the year-long curriculum. This rubric looks kind of similar to the evaluation for the superintendent that we've all looked at, but are they inputting their own narrative at any point, or is it the narrative that's selected for the rubric for that level? So I know we're getting a little bit ahead in terms of the report card. They'll have an opportunity to put a comment, like a narrative comment in, just as they add to the report cards now in terms of what we're planning around the revision. But the scale or the way that this is looked at is really right now a tool for teachers to be able to use to make decisions. And so we left this column in the middle because when we're getting feedback from teachers, they said you can leave the column and we could put a date in there, or we could list, like you were saying, different types of evidence, like what did we look at, what assignments or what student work did we look at that informed our decision. But they will be, when it comes to the actual report card, the part that goes home to families, there's a comment space, just like there is now. And I guess I didn't really say my question correctly, which was they're not inputting information about their coursework. That's written up as part of the report, and then they just select, like if they're teaching this geography course, those descriptions are already in there and they just select which one, like that we covered this part of geography is already written. They don't have to write it themselves. So in terms of the report card will have the language that's in green. It'll have the actual standard, but then the rating on it will be matched to beginning, developing, progressing, or meeting. Okay.
Is this the same idea as the sticker book from a couple years ago?
So when we talked about applying stickers, we had a similar page to this, but that was for students to have. This is a tool right now for teachers.
For the teachers, but it's the same idea. And this was pushed on by that pilot program that we're not part of. That was the original intent of this new grading change was based on that pilot program, if I'm remembering that correct. The high school's got a pilot program to change their grading.
Oh, at the state level. The state level was doing, right.
Okay.
We've had versions of standards-based and standards reference report cards. Like even when you look at an elementary report card now, it's pieces of standards. And one of the things that we did, and I think, this was part of, sort of stepping back and elongating the timeline. We did a crosswalk between our current report cards and the new standards and how much of the language has been changed or no longer appears in the new standards, right? So in some cases we're updating it, but yes, in the longer term, when we're talking about proficiency and standards base, it does connect to the way that DESE was doing it for high schools, because high schools really are the furthest from looking at grading this way.
I got a couple more questions if I could. The parents advisory group, what happened with them this school year?
Sure.
Because that was a big issue last year with them not being involved, and they got involved. And I've heard from parents and teachers, and I've discussed this grading thing this school year, and I was told that this isn't happening. It's off the table. But this is the same idea as what happened last year with the proficiency and the rubrics. And I guess that my other question is, what is the time strain on the teachers versus classroom time? Because I have a dozen or so high school kids that I have to do rubrics every semester. Each rubric takes, if you do it right, half hour, 45 minutes. So if you have a classroom of 20 kids, how much of this time is going to suck up classroom time I'm also overly concerned with any grading change, anything is supposed to be voted on by the school committee. So that has not happened yet. So it seems like a lot of wasted hours and professional development for this plan that I was told it was gone, and it seems to come, it's just interesting to me, but, so this will take up more of the teacher's classroom time to do these longer rubrics.
They already report on a number of standards on the current report card, right? So it's not changing how they report on their report card. It's giving them a tool to help them be consistent in how they report. But to get back, so there are a few questions. I'm gonna try and.
Yeah.
And if I don't remember one,
I'm
remind me, right? So last year, 23-24, we did some of the teacher professional development. We continued selecting our priority standards. We set what our proficiency skills would look like at the same time that we were meeting with the family grading advisory, right? And with the family grading advisory, they had two charges. And one of them was to help shape what communications would look like, right? And sort of set the stage for that. And they did some of that work. Like we have drafted FAQ documents, we have some drafted website content that when we get to the point of actually changing a report card, we have that information. And the other part was they really put a fine point on where we needed to direct our professional development coming into this year. And that's that piece around, I think, a real aha moment. We were actually, it was the workshop we were meeting at T-Ticket, and we had two breakout groups. And what we really clarified was the difference between a 2 and a 3. And that a 2, for some, felt like their child wasn't doing well, as opposed to where they were on a certain standard. So we took the feedback and information from the family grading advisory, and when we finished or concluded the grading advisory last year, we said, we're gonna continue with our professional development, because these are things that we need to make sure we all understand so that we do well. So that set the stage for this year's professional development.
But the parents group was cut off from that stage?
They completed the charge that they had last year, which was setting up the communication and helping us clarify what our professional development would be.
Okay.
And so we went through, we did the things that we shared with the family grading advisor we're gonna do, and we shared with teachers that we were going to do, and collected their feedback. And with that, we recognize that we do need to bring it. So our intention is to bring the draft report cards, to have a more complete presentation around what all of that would really mean at an upcoming school committee meeting. But we wanted to share with you sort of where our professional development has brought us through the year to get us to the point that we have drafts to present to the school committee. And I think for us, again, slowing down the timeline and being able to really dig deeper and have some of the conversations that we had, not just through half-day professional development, but all of the different meetings we have on Tuesday afternoons and working with our grade level leaders. In the past couple of weeks, they've been sharing with us some feedback about where they are. And so one of the things that we heard from them is overall, it really shows sort of directionally where we've gotten and the level of ownership our teachers have in the product. Overall, we really like how comprehensive it is. We feel that grading will be easier than our current report cards, since there's so many things that now have been consolidated into one grade than what we have on our current report card. We like the vertical format of the indicators, so the up and down, and they like the 3 letters relative to each of the words. Some of the big standouts when we were looking at trends across what people are asking us in terms of some of the final revisions to get a draft prepared to share with you. We had a big conversation at the end of all this about effort, because the current report card has the word effort, and then you just assign a number. And so this actually goes back, Henry, to a little bit of what you were saying relative to goal 2. We sat down with the teachers and we went through Island Clipper, and we talked about the different habits of being a Clipper that are embedded in there, both for who they are as a learner academically and who they are as a student. You know, when you think about the broader sense of behavior. And so we've listed out different Clipper habits that would appear on the draft report card, and they would have the same proficiency, but they're specific skills that students need to learn about how we act and interact in schools. And so we had a lot of conversations with teachers about that, because they had moved beyond some of the academic conversations. Some of the asks that they still have for us is, when we take the standards for the report card and we convert them into family-friendly language so they don't read like they do in the DESI documents. They said, you know, we know you're gonna make it family-friendly. We know you have to make it shorter for us, but we wanna make sure that you don't affect the integrity of the standard. They asked about the space for comments, Katrina, which goes back to the earlier part we were talking about. You know, but I think one of the other things that came up was they talked about how they use their meet your teacher nights, and students lead the conferences as opposed to a teacher presentation, right? The connection to learning. They talked about how they use their conferences and how they can use the conferences as one part of the feedback that then would set the stage for the report card. So it's been a really deep conversation with teachers, and the types of comments we're getting now are more about nuanced fine tuning to get it to a place that they like, but it's really been a very different year in terms of our conversation around.
There was one you missed. Because of the new rubric grading system, and you're gonna break it down by units of curriculum, will that add time to the teachers doing rubrics and grading and away from classroom time? More so than it is now.
They're not assigning something on a page like that for each of those standards for every kid. They're completing the report card as they do now. That's meant to help them. So if they're not sure where a student is and they're looking at the student's evidence to make an informed decision about what needs to be on the report card.
So they will fill out the rubrics after every unit to use those to help them with the, so I'm very concerned, and I've had a lot of teachers come up to me. They're very concerned about the classroom time being taken away by this new grading system. And they were concerned about that during the sticker book discussion last year. And I thought that this was gone, and that's what a lot of people thought. So my concern is changing a grading system that we haven't voted on for no apparent reason, because DESI has not released the new standards yet, as far as I understand. There's no DESI's not telling us to do this. And I've had a lot of concerns from parents and teachers that it's gonna add work to them, take them away from the classroom time. And I am very concerned that we're doing PD on this after I was told that this is dead. So
I think it's clear that this is like an initial pass through of where the year has been, and it's coming back to us. So we can address all the rest of the concerns when it comes back to us. We have a very long agenda, and I'm just cognizant of the time and taking so many questions on grading when we've already heard there's going to be another presentation that actually rounds it out.
Okay, I just thought that the school committee had input on accepting this new report cards. So just to add.
Yes, we're gonna vote on it.
Okay.
When they figure out what they want to do.
So
Okay.
we brought it to you tonight because the teachers have, at their own pace, have gone through the school year and they've got to the point, we are ready now. And that has been the feedback across every single school, every single teacher. We've gotten to this point. So now we're ready for a presentation on the 13th of May, will be the next presentation. And then after that, we will figure out when the school committee is going to vote. Will that be the second meeting in May? Will that be the first meeting in June? I mean, we need to make that decision. The very minimum that we had said last year, and we continued, and Sonia, you know, it was stated that they were going to do their professional development, and when they're ready, we would know. They're ready, and that's why Sonia brought this tonight. At the very minimum, we are not aligned with our standards. Our report card, at the very minimum, we have to change the standards. We are not reporting on what the standards are that the students are learning, and that has to align. So that has to be at the very minimum. Through all that decisions, we've come to the new report card and making sure that the parents get to hear the whole standard. That was the other piece that Sonia mentioned tonight that we heard last year. There were bits and pieces of the standards, but parents were not receiving the full indicator of what that standard is and how students are performing toward that standard. So those things have to change. The teachers have selected when you see the 4, they have selected. If you remember last year, we had a 4-point scale, but it looked a little bit different. Through this year, the teachers have decided that meeting is going to be the top. That does not mean that students will not have extension beyond meeting, but meeting really is meeting the standards. That is the proficient level, and they chose this year that they wanted that to be still being a 4-point. And the other concern that they had through the through all the professional development and learning and the collaboration was that they needed 2 data points in the middle of the scale, because just having 1 point, they may be a little bit above or a little bit below, but 2 literally gave them more space to be able to clearly identify where the students are. So what you see now has been developed by the teachers.
I'm going to speak again because I'm still concerned with last year, Terry asked a question about grading changes, and we needed to vote in the school committee. And at the time, Dr. Tellier had said not for everything or something to that effect. And I'll find the meeting. But last year we had a huge problem with the sticker book idea. Parents came to every single meeting. At the end of the year, I was told that it was over. We're not doing it. So now to find out that without approval of the school committee, well, we had concerns last year. People were talking about this last year. To spend PD time and money on something and not have the parents group continue on. And we've had parents reach out and ask about that. Well, so, all right.
Could I just ask for something to read before we have to make some decisions? Like, I say over and over again, can we see the old report, the new report card, and maybe a little bit of how it got there? Not that there's anything wrong with it, but old and new, just something to read. Because
that is part of the May 13th. So
okay,
when they come to, this was just telling you where we are. We thought more updates were better than less. So on Terry.
But it's an update, gigantic update all at once. It's just, I'm sorry, it's just way too much to take in at once. So if we could have something to read in advance, it would be helpful.
After being told.
Chris?
I just have a quick question. I'm just wondering if, once it's all together, if it's something that's worth having a forum on where parents and teachers to kind of see the whole product. And I'm not sure, I think this was started kind of before I came on, but just in terms of if forums have already been had, or essentially so people can see kind of what the finished product is going to look like, and if there's a plan kind of for that.
If Dr. Tellier had been able to finish, she was going to tell the plans, but we wanted you to hear that now the teachers have come to the point that it is ready. And we didn't want to come before that because they were still working on it. So in April, there's going to be a forum at each of the elementary schools, and absolutely, we'll let you know when those are. And then again, on May 13th, then they're going to come and give a full presentation. And then there will be a committee vote on the changes, either the last week of, or the last meeting in May or the 1st of June. And so.
Or later if we need more time. Well, I'm just saying like that is, it's good to have a goal for a schedule, but if we don't have enough information, then. Melissa.
So thank you for clarifying that, because I am always one that I want to make an informed decision. So thank you, Chris, for bringing up the forums. And thank you, Dr. Durr, for mentioning that there will be forums throughout April, and for reminding us that these are standards that we need to come up to, and that we will have information with an extension if needed to make sure we have all of the informed decisions. That will give us plenty of time to reach out to perhaps parents that were on the working group, perhaps teachers at the elementary level on our own, or waiting for the forums to hear from them. Thank you for being thoughtful about this process.
Mike, you've said your piece. We
Okay,
heard
good.
you.
Is
We
the
got you.
rollout, is the rollout
heard
planned
you.
for September of this year?
We're moving on.
Well, I can still speak. I can still speak. If the
I don't
rollout,
even know why I'm even running the meeting.
you're not really, so.
Yeah, it's clear.
So if the deadline to vote on this is June, whatever it might be, is that for a planned rollout in the fall?
We'll probably find out when we hear the presentation. We haven't gotten that far yet. Can I just ask one clarifying question about this slide? I'd rather you don't, but
I just wanna
please
know.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just wanna know if information sessions is forums, are those, is
Yes,
that?
that's the same.
Okay.
Okay, we're moving on. Update on a North Falmouth roof.
Okay, just as a reminder, town meeting in April of 2024 and the community ballot vote in May of 2024 approved the funding for a new roof here at North Falmouth Elementary. We've had a successful bid process and are now making progress in planning the process for the installation of the new roof. I'll turn it over to Paul so he can share.
So we, sorry.
No.
Put that right there. We've completed the bid process and selected a winning bid. You'll notice that there's 4 bids on the sheet that I just passed out. The first bid, the lowest bid, dropped out because they failed to include the civil engineering work in their bid. So it's a big mistake on their part. They withdrew. So the winning bid is Capeway Roofing System at the 3.1 million level. The alternatives that you see there, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the first one is the lightning system, which is essentially a cable system up on the roof on top that rests on top of the shingles to directly any lightning strike down into the eventually down into the ground. So that's the first option. The second option is for heating the gutters, because we're placing gutters around the building, and that will help with any freeze, preventing any freeze in the gutters and having a nice damp build up. And then the alternatives 3 and 4 are really for water gardens in the front and back once the work has been completed. Capeway Roofing is the winner. Just to let you know, Capeway did our T-ticket building a couple of years ago. They did a great job, so we're happy that we'll be doing this building as well. And then again, just the timing, this will start immediately as school gets out. The work will begin, and it should be finished by the summer. That's the, we shouldn't say should be.
It better be.
You know, a solar area, but it's not.
One other point is, so we have an article, 4.915 million. So we have room in this article to do the extra work that we had planned all along to do, and some of the damaged areas in the building and so on. Some of the things like asbestos floor tiles will be removed, replaced, painting work, etc. So we have a number of options, and it's also, decent contingency if material costs were to explode because of tariffs and things like that. So it's a very good bid that we've had. It's actually below what the T-ticket roof was. So it's good news from that respect, but we also have a lot to work with doing the work that we've outlined in the article.
Any questions for Paul?
Just a quick question, Paul.
Yeah.
Were the alternates, those are just like add-ons to whatever that's.
So we were concerned that we were concerned about the size of the overall cost of doing the roof. And there's this extensive civil engineering work being done because there's real problems with the water level running off here. We have to regrade the driveway. We have to put in cisterns all around the building. We're going to have to tear up the sidewalks, and, put drainage in, and so on. So we were, we were concerned about what the ultimate cost was. So we set aside the 4 alternates, things that we thought we need, but one was lightning, One was heating the gutters and the water gardens. But so we kept them as an alternate. If the bids had come in much higher, we could have said, all right, we'll stop. We don't need to do alternate 3 or 4. But the bids came in so well, we could definitely do the alternates plus the work that we wanted to do, like the tiling, floors, painting.
Thank you.
The water gardens, does that include the updates to the garden itself that we've
Yeah,
talked
so the
about?
plantings and so on afterwards.
I mean, the food garden, the educational garden that they have.
Now, the water gardens that we're talking about are the water gardens that would absorb some of the water directly from it.
Oh, the runoff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Margaret?
Maybe I didn't hear you. Are they gonna just re-roof or they're gonna tear the roof down and build?
No, they'll keep the decking on the roof and then put the new insulation and shingles on top of the decking.
And will there be a guarantee in terms of how many years that should last?
Yeah,
Because
it's like a 25-year guarantee.
Because that was a problem.
And there was, and there is a lot of structural work that's being done on this roof. So if you were to walk outside, you'd see the soffits right there, you'd see the fence right underneath them and wrapping across. Well, the net effect of that design, and that pulls in the cold air, whips it across, in a roof here, and then it drops out the other side. It's been a huge cause of the pipes freezing, heating issues in this building, and so on. So the design is really going to be corrective of problems that exist in this building.
I know you're very good at that. No, I know you're. I've been on your tours.
Thank you. Any last questions for Paul? Thanks, Paul. First read on policies.
So in your packet, you can see that there's just a few updates. We reviewed, updated the policy 2 years ago, and so we just have a few updates, clarifications under the policy. Clearly stating the definition of bullying includes intentional conduct in relationships where there is observed and perceived power imbalance and distinguishable from the peer conflict. So we wanted to make sure that that was clearly stated. Removing a specific form when any form really can be used. We do have the suggested template form in the plan, but we didn't want it to appear that there was only one that needed that. And then we added a reference on the policy. Under the plan, page 10, replace imbalance for the word imbalance for the word differential, because we think imbalance makes it a little clearer and understanding of what the intended statement means. Update principals' names. That, of course, when we did, I'll just add this. And Terry, Melissa, you remember when we did policy, 7 years ago, we went through, we took out names when we were allowed to. This is an area where we have to put the names in the actual document. Yeah, thank you. So, so we just have to kind of keep up on that. Page 17, making it clear that although we provide a bullying report form, it's not necessary. Again, that matches the policy there. Page 19, more clearly identifies the process for notifying the parents and guardians of the target and aggressor, and the requirement that the investigation must be completed in the 14 school days. That was not clearly stated before. Page 22, accurately change may to will. Regarding the discipline for knowingly making a false allegation. Just needed to be cleaned up because that is a problem. So we needed the word will. And page 24, again, clearly stating the definition of bullying that includes the imbalance. And page 29, we just changed step. We actually don't use step. That was a state template. And we changed it to pass, which we do use. And PASS is our program that we talked about before, which is the alternative to suspension program. So we just wanted to clear that up. So those are the changes. This is the first read, and we'll bring it back for a vote. Questions?
I'm not on the policy committee, so maybe I'm out of line. But when I read this about bullying
What page are you on, so we can take a
Well,
look?
this doesn't have a.
It's
Oh,
it's
sorry.
on the first page. It's the
The first
policy.
page.
It's the
Okay.
policy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. When I read this, I actually went to my computer and said, so what is the definition of bullying? And it is that, but it also includes that a differential of power can be physical status, maturity. And I just feel that that should be important because when I read this, and I'm not a policy committee, so maybe I'm wrong. It sounds like if two kids go at it and one's bullying the other, if they're sort of equal peers, that it's not bullying. And so I think that it would be helpful to put
To define it more.
a definable definition of
Balance of power.
imbalance of power, because that's what I
Like
found on
examples,
the
maybe?
computer.
So we did kind of talk about that during our policy.
That's why I'm sorry.
No, that's great. I'm glad that you brought it up because Mary was great about talking with the new language of bullying versus conflict. So, sorry, it sounds like conflict is what you kind of just described, like equal power, perhaps equal physical stature, equal ages, grades, what have you. That sounds like a conflict unless there was something in there that we didn't see at first pass kind of thing, or not immediately identifiable kind of thing. Whereas bullying would be, or could be, you know, a smaller student, perhaps of the same grade, perhaps doesn't have as a boisterous personality, inability to defend themselves, whatever it is. So Mary was great about talking bullying versus conflict. So
I'm just saying, it's just, for me, it's not clear in the statement.
Okay.
That it does include peers with a differential in terms of power. And I just felt that that may be important to be added to that definition. That's all.
Oh, that's good. That's why we do a first read. So
I mean, I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but
I just wanted to point out, because I think this is important for the community to realize that throughout this policy, it says the principal is responsible for the implementation and oversight of the bullying prevention and implementation plan within his or her school. And that is by law, right?
By law.
And so, you know, we've heard several parents during public comment talking about their children's experiences. And I just think it's really important for parents to know that it's the principal's responsibility and not the superintendent's responsibility. It's not the school committee's responsibility by law. I mean, that's where it begins. And so I think I just wanted to clarify that.
and because we're going to be working on goal 1. And I think in goal 1, part of what we're going to do, I think, is to be very clear about who you talk to about what. That you don't, run to the principal or you don't blame the school committee. That in fact, if there's a problem, you deal with the issue, then you move to the next step if that's not handled. And I think that really needs to be part of our goal. I was writing a longer response to Katrina, but I was doing other things. And so I was doing my taxes actually. So
do mine
anyway, I
next.
think that really has to be part of goal 1, and thank you for bringing that up because
great suggestion, Margaret, and great point.
The only thing I was wondering, we don't often have things that are hyperlinked in our policies. And I couldn't test, I didn't key them all in. So I always like to test the hyperlinks and see if they actually work before we approve it. Like,
To Margaret's point, I'm on that JICFB, but halfway down, it says an observed or perceived power imbalance is different than peer conflict. And I agree with you where you might think of the big guys bullying the little guy, but it could be socioeconomic, it could be anything. So I think that's some kind of clarification examples.
Got it written down here, Mike, to bring it back to policy.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, policy
Thank you,
folks.
Margaret.
Okay. Great, moving on. Is everything good? Okay, update from the superintendent.
Thank you. Just wanted to, a little update on the statement of interest. The application packet is progressing nicely, but it is still a working draft. The application is due on April 11th, and we will be ready to submit.
I'm sorry, I was writing something. What is it you're submitting?
The statement of interest is the application to the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
MSBA
for
Lawrence.
the
Okay.
Lawrence renovation.
Okay, thank you.
And so just wanted to give an update that we're really moving forward with that, and we will be ready for the submission on April 11th. Okay, so food programs. I wanted to give a little update. Last time at the last meeting, we showed a little bit about the federal grants and how the funds are used in our district. Tonight, I would like to discuss the federal food programs. And so the first I want to talk about is the USDA program that subsidizes our food, such as ground beef, cheese, and such. It does look like it's likely to be cut. For us, that would mean a decrease of about 120,000 per year. So the other food program, food program is the federal program that's our free and reduced lunch program, breakfast and lunch program. And we have no idea where that stands. What is being talked about, this is what I wanted, the piece I want to share. And if we don't know this is going to happen, we hope it doesn't. But what's being talked about is that they may increase the eligibility threshold from 25%, which is currently at, to a 40% or a 60%. So if it raises at 40%, we will be okay because we actually are right at 40%, just above 40%. If they raised it to a 60% level, we would not meet, and that's your participation rate in your district. We would not meet that. And so what does that mean for us if that happens? Right now in our food service budget, we have enough dollars that would allow us to extend through next year. So we would be able to continue our free breakfast and free lunch program for one more year. And then if nothing changes, and that continues to be what's going to happen, then for the 26-27 school year, we would revert back to the free and reduced program, the traditional program. So I just wonder, like, if they push it to 40, we're still okay. They push it to 60, we're okay for one more year because of the funds that we have in the account. And then we would have to go back to a traditional free and reduced lunch, which we hope does not happen. But I just kind of wanted to give a status of that one as well. And then retirements you have in your packet. Oh, no, you do not have it in your packet. I am going to pass out so that you have it. That's fine. You have a list of retirements to date for this 24-25 school year announcements. This for next school year. I will say within this, some of the retirements, they've already retired. So we've had some mid-year retirements, but there's 6 teachers, 1 teaching assistant, 1 food service, 4 secretaries, and 2 non-union staff that are IT department. So that's what we have at this time.
Well, congratulations to them.
Yeah. So just some other things that I want to give updates on. The Mid-Atlantic Equity Consortium, MAC, as we've been referring to them. Their federal funding has been cut. As you know, MAC has been helping us with our equity audit and our equity goals. We've been very fortunate. We were able to, this was our 3rd year, we were able to go through our equity audit. They were able to do all the community meetings and help us determine from the results of that equity audit what our goals were, which we've been reporting on all year. And so we're in a good place that, we can continue. We feel confident. I'm very sad for the districts that have been very early on in the engagement or were just planning to engage the same equity work that we have. We've had a couple across Cape and Islands and other places in Massachusetts and obviously beyond Massachusetts, but some of our colleagues, are not in the same place. So, and I'm sad for.
Can I ask a question about it? So, since their funding for that has been cut, does that also mean that, because all of their results were all posted on their website, so do we need to like download everything before it disappears?
Yes, we do, but our website is.
Yeah, we have,
But doesn't it just link?
our website has stable data stuff, but
Okay.
we have access to the actual.
I just want to make sure we don't,
Yes, no.
they don't like close the doors and turn the
No.
lights out and we don't have
No,
the data.
well,
anymore.
it's
Okay.
ours. That will assist with that.
Okay, thanks. Good point.
Yeah, it is. It's a good question. Okay, so congratulations to FEF. Many of you were at the gala on Saturday night. It was fabulous. It's just a very special event. And so this year they always honor, someone, and this year they honored the founders of FEF. So Judy Fenwick, Tom Kirkman, Jamie McDonald, and Tom Stone as the original. So that's who was on it. So it was a nice, there were other people there. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything.
Just gonna mention it in my
Were you?
updates, yes.
You wanna
Oh,
do
go
that or
ahead and do
later?
it now. Jump ahead.
No, I was just gonna mention the 4
Oh,
founders.
sorry.
No, and just to say that it was a reminiscent of galas before COVID. It was, it seemed a little bit more regal than it had been in the last few years. I think that FEF as well as other entities did a nice job in the awkward years following 2020. But I thought that it was, from my perspective, I thought it was successful. I did reach out to a board member and they said that the wine and raffle tickets brought in a couple $1,000s, which was great. And there was nice people to see out at the Seacrest, which is a change of venue. So a nice sunset to watch. Margaret, you were there. Were you?
Yeah, no, it was a very fun event, and it's always so nice to, appreciate. It was really nice to appreciate the people who founded the group. Actually, I know Tom Stone, and I didn't realize that he was one of the founders. And it's just very nice to relax and enjoy being. Knowing how special they are in terms of the added dimension they give to our children, all of our students, the things that our students would not be able to do if it wasn't for them. And it's just so grateful that we can appreciate that and thank them and show up and be there for them.
Nicely said.
And Chris and I were there as
Yeah,
well.
I know.
So-
Right. Sure know.
And Chris's wife was there. Her husband. Great night.
It was a good night. Some upcoming events, just to remind you that the Lawrence School Play is this weekend, Saturday 2 and 7, and Sunday at 2. Evening of Jazz is coming up, a very special event too, April 5th at the Kuna Messon. East Falmouth grades 1 and 3 and North Falmouth grades 2 and 3 concerts are on April 7th. Spring Works, this is pretty exciting. Spring Works, I gotta find this to share. It's called Spring Works by Studio Art 2 students. It's on display now through April 13th at Coffee O in Falmouth. This was a collaborative project with Bourne schools as well. So I'll just pass these around. This is, a picture of our students in front of their artwork, and just exciting. So everyone make it to Coffee O and see their artwork. And then the last thing I want to mention, that the remote meeting option expires on March 31st. The House and Senate have both passed extensions through June 27th. It is now awaiting the governor's signature, so we'll
wait and see.
we'll wait and see. That's right, where that was. But I just went because, because of the timing on this, I wanted to make sure that people knew. I don't know what's gonna happen.
And related to that, just to make sure that we cover our bases, because in order for us to continue to use it, our town has to sign on. So if we're gonna miss a vote or miss a meeting, that we can't offer it.
Yeah.
As a means of participation.
Yeah.
I hope that's.
Well, it came about through the COVID years.
COVID.
Yeah.
And so it's been extended once.
Yeah.
So, so we'll wait and see. Okay, that was great. Thank you.
Yes.
The trivia night was really, what was fun about the trivia night was we had two tables of teachers competing with each other. And they were more fun than anything else. And actually, I brought a grandmother of one of the students. He's like, "What are you doing here, Grandma? You're not supposed to be." So anyway, it was fun to watch the teachers. And we have to comment on Soup for the Soul. Number one, the students give us all those bowls, and those bowls are just wonderful. And the soups that those students make are fantastic. And it's really good to be able to appreciate them.
Thanks, Margaret. Okay, next up is the added agenda item for navigating the future. Before we have the conversation and take a vote, I just want to point out that Mike made the request in the meeting last week, and I explicitly said, if anyone else would like this on the agenda, to please let me know. No one reached out, which is why it was not on the agenda today. And now, barring tabling it for our next meeting, we're about to have a conversation that violates open meeting and take a vote on something that the community truly cares a lot about. And we will be doing it without any prior notice for the community, which violates open meeting because it was not posted, because no one else reached out and said they wanted it on the agenda. My preference would be to table it so that we can post it and have it follow open meeting. But I recognize that with a majority who are in support of having it on the agenda for tonight, that would probably fail. But I just felt like we need to at least acknowledge why it was not posted and why the community has no opportunity for input.
Well, it's my amendment, and I'd like to comment on that. I don't, if you want to talk about that, the procedure of putting stuff on the agenda is inequitable. This isn't the first time I've asked this to be on the agenda. I asked it before, and then you amended my request to limit it in such a way that we could not vote. And that was the meeting at the high school. So I am fine with this going through today and voting on this and open meeting law. I mean, it is what it is. What this could have been settled if you had put the people's voices on the agenda.
It's not the people's agenda. It is our agenda, and we've had the same process for the entire year, that one person does not get to dictate the contents of our meetings. They have to be supported by enough people.
If I could, the agenda item is on Navigating the Future 1 and 2, it's my agenda, and the people elect us. It's very simple. We have 4 goals. Data-driven decision-making. We have.
That's not one of our goals. That's a school district goal. It is not the school committee's goal.
If I can continue, we have a report from NESDEC. Nowhere in that report does it say to merge 2 elementary schools and leave the other 2 alone. It says to redistrict. That's number 1. Number 2 is that 1 and 2 are inequitable to the students. We talked about putting in portable units, whatever. There's not a necessity to do this right now. This does not affect the Morse Pond or the Lawrence. This is just the equitability of the elementary schools using the NASDAQ data. And that's it.
So can you actually make your motion though, so that somebody can second it, we can keep going?
My motion is
Excuse
to.
me, before you make your motion. Okay. Explain to again, is this law breaking because it's breaking open meeting laws?
Yes, because it's not posted.
But Robert's rules does allow it.
It does, but
Yes.
Robert's rules and open meeting are completely separate things.
So just for clarification, because this is a question that I have.
Robert's rules does say that one person can request an agenda item. It doesn't need a seconding. And so our policy states that we should be following Robert's rules. Now, we do not, but I'm just confused as far as, is it in our policy that we need a second to have an agenda item? Or how did that come to be?
That's how I did it the last 2 times I was chair. That's how Natalie did it when she was chair. That's how I said from the very start of the year, how we were gonna do it, because there are 9 of us. Can you imagine if every one person can just put something on the agenda? We would never get to our actual business. We would be constantly spinning. There has to be some guardrails for what we debate. Is it written?
Yes. Okay, if this is breaking open meeting laws, but if usually when we talk about something, we vote about it at the next meeting. And considering the fact that there are 8 people here, I don't think it's wise to have a vote because you have 4, you could have 4 and 4. And so hopefully next meeting we'll have 9 people and we can have a vote.
Can I make a motion to amend his motion?
His motion doesn't even have a second yet, so it's not even a motion yet.
Okay, make your motion.
He made it, there's still no second.
Oh, second. Okay, we could amend his motion, which is now in our agenda, to say we want to add this to the agenda for, what is it, May? April.
Or
Month
just
of May.
table it to the next meeting.
Yeah, you're tabling it.
Table it, but you can also just say add to agenda. Is tabling going to add it to the agenda?
Yes, that's what it does.
If I may, if we're gonna follow Robert's rules that I can add and amend an agenda item on the, right? I can do that. That's Robert rules.
Yes.
And then nowhere in Robert's rules does it state that you need a second for an agenda item, correct? So my concern is, if we're gonna follow Robert's rules, we need to follow it. We can't just make up procedures that, oh, I have a new procedure, I'm gonna do this. That's not what we should be doing. As far as the open meeting law, this could have been dealt with if you had just put the agenda item on, like I had requested, every single meeting. Your role as the chair is not to say you can't talk about something. I would like this vote tonight, if it goes against me, that's fine. But this has been way too long on this discussion. We waited for the NASDAQ report. We have that report. Nowhere in that report does it say merge T-Ticket and East Falmouth alone. We need to start fresh with the building committee as they move forward and not pigeonhole them into doing something that's against the NASDAQ report.
But you're exactly pigeonholing them by taking it off the table because they won't even, they're not considering it.
Yeah,
You're
merging
limiting their
T-Ticket and East Falmouth is not equitable.
We're gonna back and forth now.
But we've not voted on that.
And I'm asking tonight to vote to remove the option of merging East Falmouth and T-Ticket. That's all I'm asking for. It doesn't affect Morse Pond. It doesn't affect the Lawrence renovations. It doesn't affect the grade changing because that's all in the NASDAQ report. So we have a second, and I call to vote.
No, she has to table it.
Katrina asked for an amendment.
And I did not accept that. So now I'm asking to move to vote on my original question.
But I don't think.
Well,
you
someone
can
would have to
accept-
second my amendment.
Are you asking to amend it
Well,
or
okay,
table it
can I
to the
ask
next
a quick question? Do we have time in our next meeting, given that it's before town meeting, to have?
It would have to be probably the only, we'd have to bump everything else for the meeting probably.
And I still don't think that'd be time.
And we've never followed Robert's rules. Please, I've been a parliamentarian for 6 years. So that we're going to decide tonight that we follow Robert's rules is sort of interesting.
So as of now, my motion has been seconded, and I would like to call to question deleting 1 and 2 of Navigate in the Future.
But we haven't had a discussion on it, so we're not gonna vote on it until everybody has a chance to weigh.
Okay, if we can just
Just
focus on
discussion.
the agenda item. Be great.
Discussion. Terry.
What happens if we vote on it and break open meeting law? What happens?
Someone can file a complaint.
Somebody can file a complaint?
Yeah. Yes.
Question on, or comments on the agenda, on the
I
motion?
just want to continue to say want all the information, including having the discussion with building needs before making any kind of decision on anything, whether it's removing 1 and 2 or getting rid of it altogether. I continue to say, I really want to have all of the information before I make any kind of decision. Furthermore, the NESDAQ report, in my opinion, on how I've translated the conversations with, that we've had at Building Needs, the conversations around this table, was that it was going to be a guide. It wasn't going to be a Bible. It wasn't going to be that we're going to do this only if they say it. We have said all along that we wanted to make it Falmouth, that it was going to be, okay, we have an opinion from a consulting firm, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be this way or the highway. And if it doesn't fit in this box, then it doesn't exist. We've never said that. And I feel like it's also true with Robert's rules. We use it as a guide. We don't necessarily use it as, you know, we must do this every single time. It has to be this way. I think if we did that, then we wouldn't necessarily have to have a chair, because we would always just go this way, this way, this way. There would be no personal interpretation of things. So I appreciate your spirit, Mike, and I hear what you're saying. But again, I'm just going to say, I really want to have all of the information before I make any kind of decision.
Yeah, that's fine.
Any other comments, Terry?
I personally don't think we should be voting any kind of changes or doing anything to our schools. The same thing I said at the last meeting, only fortunately I was told to quit talking about it. But I do not feel we should be doing anything in our district next year, period. We could lose funding for the pre-K that we have now. That was just amongst a lot of things. I think if we were smart, we should look, like Lori mentioned, about being proactive about some food that we could, free, you know what I mean, the food programs that we could lose. I would say we should put all our energy to what we have here. Let's look at everything. And then a year later, look, NESDAQ report, if I'm wrong, tell me. I think it said we could look at it for 3 years. It would be a valued document. Is that wrong? Or is that right?
Yeah, the 3-year.
Okay, so we're taking 1 year to get our you-know-what together in this district. We have a lot of things. So that's why I would say take everything off the table. So I would vote.
That's not the motion, though. The motion just wanted to.
But
I agree, but.
That's why I would vote for that motion.
Yeah.
In regards to, Susan's not here, so I'm gonna say in regards to, she always says it. In regards to the NESDAQ report, they recommended 8 different varieties, some of which involved merging 2 schools, but they didn't specify schools. So in that respect, items 1 and 2 single out the schools by name. So if we're really trying to take the NESDAQ report at face value, wiping out 1 and 2 would be useful. I personally feel that the NESDAQ report was not complete and we should have included Lawrence Morse and the high school. That's a separate motion to have another feasibility or enrollment study, just looking at those 3 schools and then getting their recommendations for all the school buildings and what we could do. I don't think it's complete, but in relation to his motion, I don't want to violate open meeting law. I would personally make a motion to, I guess, table. I'm not sure if that's the language I would use, but to move it to next meeting so that we're not in violation of open meeting law. But I am in favor of taking 1 and 2 off because they are options from NESDAQ, but NESDAQ did not specify the best schools. So we want to slate that, I think.
Okay, so I will second your motion to table, but
Hold
Margaret,
on. There's a motion and a second on the table.
yes, and a motion to table it
And then there's a-
supersedes
and
the
then
previous motion.
Oh, now we're back to Robert's rules.
Well, I clearly support table again.
Oh, no, but
if
my
we're gonna
question
do it.
is,
But, you know.
no, but I have a parliamentary question I'm trying to ask you.
sorry.
Oh God, my brain just, what was it? Motion, oh, is a motion to table debatable?
I'm sorry?
Is a motion to table debatable? I don't know.
You have to vote on it.
You have to vote on it, but I don't know if it's debatable. No? Yeah. Okay, so then, are you checking?
Yep.
I have my thing better than
I don't think it tells you if they're debatable on there. Is there any discussion about tabling it?
Was there any problem with saying, instead of tabling, to say, move to the next agenda? Is there a problem with that?
I'm completely confused. We are following Robert's rules, and I'm not lending support. I'm not lending
No, you're fine.
support or whatever. I'm just trying to make sense of the protocols that we are trying to follow here, and if we are. Our policy states that we should be following Robert's rules. Now, whether we do it as our dialogue, we don't. But in terms of our requesting for things to be on an agenda, for tabling things, I mean, are we following it or are we not? I just need a guide so that I can proceed as a member of this committee, because honestly, I'm quite confused.
So the Roberts Rules training I did, they specifically said that there is Roberts Rules, and then each committee is allowed to write their own policy rules, and which may not match or align with Roberts Rules. And I have not examined our own our own committee version of Roberts Rules, so I also am confused.
So if my feeling is, if it says in our policy that we need 2 people to put something on an agenda, then that's what we follow. If it does not say that, and Robert's Rules says it does not, then we don't. But I just would like some clarification so that I can be a clear-headed member of this committee, because right now I'm not.
Okay, so I don't think we can solve your question right now. The question at hand is to vote on tabling the motion that Mike has made until our next meeting. And we need to vote on that.
There's no
Tabling is a
debate.
vote.
There's no discussion on this?
I thought somebody was
Margaret's
looking to
looking
see if
right
it's
now to
debatable.
see if there's a discussion on a tabling.
I apologize, we have never, in my time, in 11 years, we have never. That doesn't answer my question, though. I need to know the answer to whether or not a motion to table is debatable.
Without debate.
Without debate, thank you. So the vote will, thank you, Margaret, I appreciate that.
What if
The
my vote
motion-
doesn't say table? What if my motion does not say table? My motion to amend originally did not say table, it said move to next.
That's not an
meeting.
amendment on the topic, though. It has to be
Oh,
specific to what you're.
my motion to amend the motion on the table is to move this discussion and action to our next school committee meeting as scheduled. That is my amended motion, my amendment to his motion.
I don't actually understand that motion, but I'll second it because it accomplishes the same thing as tabling.
So do
Now
we
we
have
have to debate it
discussion?
because it's an amendment.
Okay, so
She took the tabling away. Now she's making an amendment, which we have to debate.
We don't have to.
no, we have to.
Is there discussion on the amendment?
I would like to make a discussion on the amendment.
Please.
I don't think having it at our next meeting will give us enough time to have a spirit, like this needs more conversation. And I feel like in my experience with those town meeting, school committee meetings, it's not going to give us enough time.
Okay, that was my question before, yeah.
That's
And
just
then-
my opinion.
Further discussion? Yes, we have plenty of time right now to discuss this. I made the motion. We don't have to push it to the next meeting or the meeting after that. All I'm talking about is deleting the 2 parts that single out 2 elementary schools. That's it. So we can come back to it. We can look at it in a year or 2 years, whatever. I am just trying to delete the purposeful statement of merge East and T-ticket as it's not equitable and it's not in the NESDEC report. And that's it.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
I have said several times that I do have something that I hope I will present to the task force. And so before we vote on anything else, maybe it would be good to hear that.
Well, this
All
would
right,
not.
the motion is.
Do you want
any
it to
less-
be next meeting, though? We've just heard that maybe it shouldn't be. Should I amend my amendment?
I
So
don't
that
think
it
you can.
specifies a date?
I feel like we've seen this on
At the
town
high
meeting
school, there's,
floor.
we're gonna be at a town meeting, there's only like a meeting for an hour.
Right, but my amendment specified next meeting, so my bad.
Well, our next regular meeting.
Oh, our next regular meeting.
Because it's a short meeting, so you could say
The next
Okay.
next regular meeting would be the one after that. Okay, so the vote will come on approving the amendment, which would move the discussion to our next regular meeting, which would be not the April town meeting, May 13th. Thank you for knowing the date. All in favor, say aye. Aye. So that's two,
May
three.
13th is so far away.
Opposed?
No.
Two to three, unless I counted wrong.
No, I
and-
haven't voted yet.
I haven't voted either because I thoroughly.
So three abstentions.
Well, some people didn't vote. I didn't realize it was May 13th. That's a ways away.
The question is, we vote tonight or have the ability to possibly vote and discuss it on May 13th? Those are the two options.
There were two in favor of the amendment, three opposed to the amendment, and three abstentions. Is that correct?
No, I want to vote against it because I still want all the information.
I am for. I just had to take in a moment of May 13th.
So I just want to be crystal clear so that everyone knows why I'm voting the way I'm voting. I am voting against the amendment, the additional agenda item by eliminating 1 and 2 of navigating the future, because I again want all of the information, and that includes roundtable discussion with building needs.
That's happening Thursday.
If I'm clear
Wait,
though,
hold on.
I'm not done.
Please let her finish so we can finish
So,
this vote and
I
move
just
on.
want to be crystal clear as to why I'm voting the way I'm voting, so there's no mystery. I am voting against Mike's agenda item to eliminate 1 and 2 of navigating the future, because I would like to hear the roundtable discussion from building needs. I would like to speak with community members, and I would like to hear more information.
So the vote is to move it to May 13th, not Mike's original. I'm sorry. So
And when was,
the vote is to amend.
to get rid of 1 and 2? Okay,
Just to have the discussion May 13th.
It's a motion
Just
to
to have a
the
discussion on May 13th, not necessarily to vote for eliminating 1 and 2 on. the
Correct. Only just moving the discussion to
The
May 13th.
discussion.
A vote in
so she's
favor.
she's voting in favor of the amendment. then.
Right.
Because if you don't, you're voting in favor of having the vote tonight.
Correct.
I do not.
If you don't amend
Okay,
Mike's motion, then we vote.
Then
on
you're
this thing.
voting to move it to May 13th.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
My vote will be in favor of Katrina's amendment.
okay.
Which
All right,
is
so
the
that,
May 13th.
the motion carries, the amendment carries. So that moves it to, that moves the discussion to May 13th.
And then do we have to vote on his motion as amended?
Sorry, go on. You got me.
No, we
And
voted.
this was
So
Katrina's
just,
amendment.
we're just
We voted
bumping
on
it
the
to May
amendment,
13th.
And then we vote on the motion as amended, don't we? No?
No, you
Normally,
you postponed it,
it
Oh,
supersedes it, so it moves it to 13th.
and that
It
motion
is moved.
carries.
His amendment didn't go away, it just got
It
moved.
just got moved. I said 13th. And then we'll actually vote on it then.
Melissa voted against it. She was going to vote
Routine
tonight,
business, it's
so-
the set of minutes that are printed on the pale paper at your seat, because there were a couple of edits. A couple additions of names, and I feel like there was one other one. Oh, and the corrections to the members present. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as at our seat?
The gray ones.
The gray ones.
Yes, I make that
Thank
motion.
you, Katrina. Is there a
Second.
second? Thanks, Margaret. Any
Second.
last edits? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's unanimous. Committee member reports, we heard Soup for the soul already. Terry?
Okay, I write mine so that they're short and sweet. I hope you noticed that. Okay, so first I'll talk about VIPs. The VIPs, March Student Volunteer of the Month is Jacqueline Collins. And on March 12th, 20 of the peer mentors from Falmouth High School attended a celebration during Clipper time. Treats were provided by Andrea's Kitchen. These are mentors not in discipline, which was discussed, in the mentor connection for. They help each other with math or science or whatever. Or new kids who are unfamiliar with the district, or the high school, they may take them around. And Dave Sugar, you've heard his name, but very active in the VIPs, has assembled a great a lineup of local experts to be speakers for the FHS 2 classes there, Personal Finance and Principles of Business. That was the VIPs. Collaborative. We had a meeting on March 12th, and part of the thing the collaboratives do is they confer with districts about special needs individual districts might have, and I think you heard me say last time, they look at ways that can make working together, give everybody help. So they are investigating hiring a teacher for the visually impaired, which is not a big person who's looked for, but there are some instances, so that's on their radar. And also, I'm so happy to talk about what am I happy to talk about? When it has to do with the collaborative. Mass Maritime, the ASLP program, there are 220 spots this year. They figure that 210 will be filled, and applicants this week should be getting their acknowledgement if they got accepted or not. Falmouth always has the most you can have. Okay, here was my report.
Any other committee report? Are you doing policy? Go ahead. You want to do policy?
I was gonna do
You do
policy.
policy.
I was just going to mention what you saw tonight on all things bullying. I have some great suggestions from Margaret and Glenda to add the language to the bullying policy. So we'll bring that to the second read. That is about all with policy.
We also had a preliminary discussion about Dress for Success and the next steps for the process.
And then I was also just going to mention, it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
I just like to again invite Terry for the CPAC to do the rest of the presentation. I mentioned it before, but I just wanted to say it again. As I saw the slides and they look good, so that is all.
Any last reports? Or request for Chris, I'm sorry.
Is that, I was kind of waiting for a request for follow-up.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was moving on to that one. Yep. What's up?
Yeah, just a couple. So is the Dress for Success, is that one being discussed at the policy level? Would we be able to kind of have like a presentation or just on kind of like the history of Dress for Success and kind of what that is? Just to kind of, for me, just to have a kind of, or for school committee members to have kind of an understanding, general understanding of it and that kind of background on that. That's one. And then I was wondering if we'd be able to put on a future agenda, probably before the next cycle of goal settings and evaluations happen, kind of just for the committee to have a discussion of setting school committee goals, kind of the process for setting school committee goals, superintendent goals and superintendent evaluation, to kind of have that discussion before we kind of start the next cycle. And I think, and one other one was kind of a follow-up to, well, I'm thinking about it now. I'm sorry you didn't get to finish your presentation, but I'd love to, if we could get the slides for that, I'm not sure. Just as part of just for documentation. And I had a question regarding, and I think I had asked the iReady team, if it's possible to separate the K through 4 by school. It sounded like that was a difficult thing to do, but I feel like that would be really helpful, especially in terms of kind of our DEIB work, to kind of see if the schools are all progressing at the same kind of level. And I think my final one is, I know we've gotten a lot of kind of emails and discussion about kind of the business office and HR, and I wasn't sure if we could have a presentation kind of on what our current, business office and HR processes are, like how things are functioning right now, what the processes are for stuff, like what are all the things you guys have to deal with, and kind of just more for my personal information and background information, just the inner workings of kind of the school. So, sorry, that was a long one.
No worries. Thank you. Any other requests for follow-up or agenda? Margaret?
I think it'd be good for the school committee to do a self-evaluation at the end of the term this year.
Yeah, it's in our goal 2. It's part of our goal 2.
I don't ever remember doing an evaluation, so I think that's a good idea.
No, yes, I agree with you. Glenda added it to the goal 2 requirement. So
Okay.
goal 2 folks will take that up.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just, I think we need a special session for the school committee around Robert's rules.
I had a date set for MASC to come, but we can't all be there that night, so we're looking for a new date. Any last things? I make a motion that we move into executive session to conduct strategy for negotiations with union personnel, FBA. I'm sorry.
Bless you.
With union personnel, FEA units A, B, C, and D, and non-union personnel having these discussions in the open meeting will have detrimental position. Thank you, and it's a roll call.
Yes.
Katrina, can you vote, please?
Sorry, Sharon was asking something.
Yeah, sorry. What do we have to move into executive?
Yes, I.
Thanks.
Terry Medeiros, yes.
Let's keep yes.
I think on yes.
Lumping yes.
Well, yes, that's unanimous.
Sue texted me and said